This story begins with a bloody battle. A warrior emperor named Ilcheon participated. There were many warriors against him. However, they didn't even realize that this man's name was Ilcheon, because he was the only one who united the vastness of Hwang Island under his rule. He was called emperor because his skill reached to the very heavens. He could easily seize luxury, gold, or even power. There was nothing that could not belong to the emperor himself. In the cave, through the opening through which the moonlight peered, the question of why was voiced. A bald man appeared in front of him who didn't understand why on earth this guy had dropped everything and left. The unexpected appearance startled Ilcheon. The bald man was obviously crazy. It looked like he had decided to blind the emperor with his bald head early in the morning. Does he really think there is a person in the world who became bald of his own volition? He should immediately apologize to all the bald people in this country. The guy replied that it's not even about his baldness. The problem is that he's standing there reflecting the light. The bald man didn't want to listen to this meaningless chatter. He should apologize. Ilcheon wished he would get out of here with his blinding baldness. After which, the bald man again told him to apologize. The protagonist replied that he would apologize to every bald man in the country, but not to this idiot. He found this guy to be cruel. Even before he leaves, Ilcheon still can't make himself even a little bit kinder, but he was just telling the truth. The bald man turned away, for he could not believe that he would stand his ground until the very end. The bald man again inquired as to why he had decided to leave. He has nothing to regret, and life ahead of him is not a life of regret, but of pleasure. The protagonist revealed that he has aspirations greater than mere pleasure. The bald man only grinned, saying that someone would be surprised because of the nonsense he was talking here. He covered the boy with the pelt of a 1,000-year-old Imuga. The bald man asked the protagonist who, besides himself, could have obtained such a miracle. The legendary Pang Tao, who only descended to the world of the living once every 1,000 years. No one could defeat Pang Tao except Ilcheon. Only the warrior Emperor Ilcheon possesses these wonders of the world. Therefore, he should appreciate it. He couldn't even imagine that there was anything more valuable than this in the world. The protagonist didn't even realize since when did the great monk of the Black Mountain become such a chatty person. Could it be that he really regretted leaving? He replied that it was nonsense. Ilhan will survive just fine without him. The monk of the Black Mountain should be happy at all. However, the monk still wouldn't understand him. It is the loneliness of a wanderer in a strange world. The realization that he would never see his family again. His family. Before he could fully finish his sentence, the monk interrupted him, saying that it was none of his business. He displayed the last artifact. He also prepared to ask the last question. Does the emperor really have no regrets? What he built will never belong to him again. A smile appeared on his face, and he stated that he regretted nothing. He wants to come back, whatever it takes. Namely home to a planet called Earth. That was his wish. And he, who is the greatest dark sorcerer of the Hwang country, will give the boy what he desires. He called him Yang Su-hyuk and asked him to get ready. Everything that once belonged to him will become the warlock's property. Yang Su-hyuk only chuckled, calling him crazy. However, he had one last thing he wanted to say to this madman, but his mind went blank. After that, the guy woke up. He didn't realize where he was or if the Black Mountain monk's magic had worked. It really couldn't not work, and if it didn't work, he'd find the fucking wizard and polish his bald head to the bone. But suddenly he looked around and realized he was in a hospital. Could this be the ground? After that, he noticed the Hangle. After all, he did manage to come back. As soon as he tried to rise, he was struck with unbearable pain. Would he die again, even though he had just returned? His body is in a terrible state. There's no way that a couple days in the hospital would make him so infirm. The monk of the Black Mountain would be sure to bring the lad back to the very moment he left the earth. But it looks like the monk messed up big time with the precision of the moment. He was mad at that crazy wizard. In this condition, the guy can't even stand up. He would have to recover first. Yang Su-hyuk realized that he needed to apply the technique and the sacred source of the earth. The sacred earth source technique is a meditation technique that was developed by Yang Su-hyuk in the Hwang world. It is very effective and enhances health and even restores beauty to the body. He assigned to inhale that energy. His body began to accumulate this energy within himself. The once weakened muscles she brought back to their original state. Slowly, but the technique was rebuilding his organs. Afterward, the boy opened his eyes. They were shining with a violet light. Afterward, he tried to stretch. The intense pain was no longer binding his body. He saw the result of the sacred earth source technique in the mirror. This technique really works wonders. It's not true. The guy's like a reborn man. And now it's time to get a nurse. He wanted to touch the call button that was beside the bed. Suddenly, a message from the Force system appeared before his eyes. There, the guy was called awakened and also told that he had to protect humanity. He could not believe his eyes. This event shocked him greatly. The system reported that he had mastered an rank A skill called Sacred Earth Source Technique. He even slapped himself in the face, for he thought he had just lost his mind. The pain was real, which meant it wasn't a dream and everything was really happening. He mentally cursed the Black Mountain monk. After all, Yang Soo-hyuk had asked him to bring him to the earth at the very moment he had left it. It's really kind of a mockery. The system showed a statistics window, so it said that there was a system error and the stabilization process was started. His profession is a master of martial arts. Due to long inactivity, the user received a disability. The accumulated karma value is many times higher than that of people of the same age and race. Looking at the whole thing, he realized that it didn't look like magic at all. Of course, no Q could create such an illusion. He even wondered if the monk of the Black Mountain had screwed up so badly that he had sent the protagonist to a world only superficially similar to Earth. But even if that's true, there's a new question. Why is Yang Soo-hyuk's birth date the same? Now he realized that he was definitely on Earth. It would be embarrassing to have that glowing thing sticking out in front of his eyes like that. He mentally told it to disappear. Then, as if on command, the system window disappeared. This illusion seems to obey his words. Yang Soo-hyuk wanted to check his hunch once more and called out to the system. The blue window appeared in front of his eyes again, and as soon as he told the system to disappear, the window disappeared. He felt like he was in a movie or a game of some kind. But only one thing is clear now. The world he used to live in has definitely changed. He saw the doors open and there were nurses wanting to come into his room, chatting happily. Soo-hyuk decided to ask what had happened to him. As soon as he turned to the nurses, there was genuine shock on their faces. None of them had obviously expected the awakening of the protagonist. Soo-hyuk didn't understand what was wrong with these nurses either. What's wrong with a patient waking up? The other nurse immediately wanted to call the doctor. A little later, the doctor checked that the pupil response to light was normal. The man then asked if the patient had any complaints of feeling or pain, or perhaps some discomfort. Soo-hyuk replied that there was nothing wrong and he was healthy. The doctor thought it was incredible, because his body didn't seem to be affected in any way. He casually mentioned that it had been 5 years since the portals had been opened. There's no way he expected to be in a coma for 5 whole years. The doctor told me that this did happen, whereupon he began to write something down. He tried to put the information together and even tried to figure out what year it was if it had already been 5 years. The doctor replied that it was the year 2028. He started cursing the old man from the Black Mountain again. He had said that he would make the time to the minute. Meanwhile, the Black Mountain monk, who had never uttered a word of truth in his entire life, could only laugh at being believed. He would strangle that monk himself if he came back. The doctor was sure that the patient had many questions now, but his health came first. He asked the protagonist to rest and then they could socialize again. The nurse also realized that Soo-hyuk was shocked, but he should try to stay calm. She also said that they had contacted his relative who would be coming soon. He was immediately surprised by the words about a relative. The nurse said that she has been coming to see the patient almost every day for all these years. She loves him very much. Soo-hyuk inquired if she had said when she was coming. It's been an hour since they called her back. She'll probably be here soon. Then a young girl came into the room. She was trying to catch her breath, for she must have run here very fast. The nurse cheerfully announced that the patient's younger sister had arrived, and also the one who is his guardian. She immediately walked over to the main character's bunk and couldn't believe her brother had actually come to his senses. Soo-hyuk. Ask her who she's talking to. He's not a ghost. He remembers Sua, who was just a little girl, and now she's all grown up. Now she realized it was really her brother. He's awake and even talking to her. Soo-hyuk chuckled and pinched his cheek, confirming that he was real. He even acknowledged everything, that it was so amazing to see her as an adult. Without further ado, she immediately hugged him. You could hear her whimpering. She missed her big brother very much. The nurse asked the caregiver to keep a low profile, as the patient was still very weak. Soo-hyuk only waved his hand, letting him know that everything was fine. Sua was afraid he would never regain consciousness. The girl thought she would never see him conscious again in her life. He tried to reassure her by talking about how they are now together. The protagonist also apologized for making her wait so long. It was a warm reunion between brother and sister, witnessed by the nurse. She wiped her tears with tissues and asked how he was feeling. Usually, if a person came to their senses after falling through a portal, they felt unbearable pain. Soo-hyuk showed that he's really okay. She knows him. He doesn't want to be sick for a long time and he can't. She asked her brother to stop bragging. What if the pain came back? Soo Hyuk asked what kind of pain there could be when she had just hugged him so tightly that he could barely breathe. He also wondered if she was ashamed to do that to her sick brother. Sua explained that she hadn't done it on purpose. She forgot herself with the joy of seeing him come to his senses. Of course he understood. He also remembered her words about the portal, so he asked what that meant. The realization came into her head that her brother couldn't possibly know about the portal. 5 years ago, in the year 2023, disaster struck. It was like an earthquake of great destructive power, after which portals to other worlds began to appear. Some portals led to safe worlds, but others were very dangerous. The dangerous measures became known as dungeons. Scary monsters live in these worlds. Simultaneously with the opening of the portal, people with superpowers, called awakened ones, began to appear. In the last 5 years, the world has changed beyond recognition. The moment the first portals opened is now referred to as the portal incident. He really had a hard time believing in monsters, awakened ones, and the portal incident in general. Sua said not to worry about it. Soo Hyuk will be discharged and then he'll catch up gradually. He remembered that the system window had said something about an awakened one. It seemed to have something to do with it. When he was discharged, he wanted to find out more about it. And until they knew better, not to tell anyone about the system window yet. He didn't even know if the system was dangerous or not. The girl wondered what he was thinking so deeply about. Soo Hyuk inquired if she was now in college. The girl awkwardly averted her gaze, indicating that she hadn't acted. This news shocked him, because the girl had always been an excellent student. I wonder if it was because of him. As it turned out, she was just bored with her studies and wanted to start earning. Soo Hyuk didn't even know if he should pretend that he didn't understand. From the expression on her face alone, he could tell that she was lying. Sua asked me not to think she was lying. It's the truth. She also said that Mom and Dad should be arriving soon. She wondered how long it would take them to get there. Soo Hyuk realized that she was just trying to change the subject. For now, Soo Hyuk could assume that he believed her. The girl said again that she wasn't lying. Soon he would really see his mother and father. He'd even forgotten that he had a good relationship with his mother. But things were much worse with his father. By profession, my father was what people call a writer, poet, novelist, literary critic. The man told his son that he would be done soon, and then he would play with him. He only needed to wait a little while. The child agreed. But what is life like for the usually mediocre writer? It's a life on the edge of poverty. Soo Hyuk hated how poor they were. He was even a little angry with his father. The father heard his son's voice and said, "Wait a little while," for he wanted to make dinner. Soo Hyuk only angrily asked if he would be typing these useless texts for a long time. Isn't he ashamed to live like this? How much longer is he going to invest such an existence? The man replied that writing is just a hobby for him. And tonight he goes to another job. He asked me not to take that into my head and suggested we eat. He would make rice and curry. However, he wanted nothing, for he was very tired already. A man tried to stop him, but eventually my father gave up on his dream of becoming a writer. He called Soo Hyuk and Sua, for he had brought a chicken. The man noticed that his son was going somewhere. He also asked if Soo Hyuk was going to have lunch with them. Soo Hyuk replied that he was going to a party at a friend's house. Of course he understands this, because you need to maintain relationships with your friends. He also asked his son if he needed money. He put some money aside just in case, and Mom doesn't know about it. Let him buy himself something nice at the restaurant. But the guy just wouldn't accept the money. He said to keep the money. Dad's money's tight enough as it is. So why is he trying to give me pocket money? It's just unthinkable. After which he said traumatized words, to the effect that if he hadn't been in that family, they might have been quite happy. He'd better not try to make up for lost time. Soo Hyuk was a complete idiot back then. Haman, and not the best person. He thought that his son probably needed that money. It seemed like he should have thought about it a lot sooner. If he had known then that he was seeing his father for the last time, he might have acted differently. But most likely he wouldn't have. Soo Hyuk was too immature to realize the consequences. It was then that he noticed the portal that opened up all behind him. He didn't realize what it was at all, after which he noticed his father running towards him. That image is forever etched in his memory. After he woke up in Hwang country, he regretted every day, even now, how he had treated his father. Dreaming of his return, he wanted above all to apologize to his father. But 5 years had passed. His parents walked into him. They had a look of shock on their faces. They couldn't believe that their son had actually woken up. The woman immediately walked over to her son, not believing that he had really come to his senses. a little confused, but he pronounced himself conscious now. His sister and mother rejoiced and also began to cry. It was a great joy for them. His mother was afraid that he would never come to his senses again, whereupon he heard his father question her about his well-being. He asked with a sort of peacefulness on his face if he had any pain. Afterwards, the man apologized to his son. Soo Hyuk was right. The father should have earned more money so that he could be treated better by the people around him, but he couldn't do that. Tears appeared in the main character's eyes. In fact, he was the one who had to apologize to his father. It was his fault. Father always cared about his family's happiness, but Soo Hyuk said such horrible words. He really was a villain. While he was unconscious, not a day went by without regretting it. He apologized to his father again, promising that he would never speak to him that way again. Father and son embraced in a sign of reconciliation. Even Sua held on and tried not to cry completely, for she didn't understand. And since when had her bully brother become so kind? But she couldn't contain herself. It was so good that she didn't even know whether to laugh or cry. Soo Hyuk asked his sister what she was saying. The mother said that the son himself should know that this girl sometimes doesn't know what she's saying. The father was supportive, saying that she was just happy. Soo Hyuk realized that apparently she had become even weirder. Sup got angry and wanted to hit Soo Hyuk. In response, the protagonist reminded him that he was still a patient. When he decided to come back, he made the right decision. The happiness he was looking for was actually very close by. 3 days later, Soo Hyuk checked himself out of the hospital. The doctor was puzzled. He kept asking how Soo Hyuk was able to recover so quickly. After all, it was natural that a person who had just come out of a coma and would be very weak and sick. He even asked if the protagonist was accidentally awakened. But for now, the guy decided not to talk about it. He doesn't know anything at all about this world and can't spread it to the first person he meets. But there is a silver lining. Because the doctor was very interested in his ability to heal himself, he agreed to reimburse half of the cost of treatment and asked me to come for an appointment every month. I guess you could say that when he woke up, he had already fulfilled his filial duty to his parents. But in fact, he owes his parents a debt of gratitude. Actually, it's all thanks to his sacred source earth technique. But still, he greatly relieved the financial burden of his parents, whereupon the girl informed me that this is where they lived. He just couldn't believe that this was their home. His sister confirmed that they lived in the apartment on the 2nd floor. It's a long story, but to make a long story short, they had to move here based on the stories of my sister. She also added that mom and dad are rarely here, so Soo Hyuk can have one of the rooms. After that, Soo Hyuk wanted to give him the password to the castle. He remembered that even though they had always lived poor, this was too much. Did all of this happen because of him alone? Apparently, the hospital billboards have dragged his family to the financial bottom. He was designed to be in the mood to make money as soon as possible and as much as possible. All this he would do for the sake of his family. In this new world, there is no more obvious way to get rich quick. He needs to become a hunter. The protector class certainly has great respect and glory, for they protect humanity. But hunters make a lot more money. But there's a problem. Soo Hyun's body is in such a state that it is very early for him to even dream of this profession. As soon as he ran for a while, he was already exhausted. And the reason was that his blood was 90% infected. As the system reported, his body was underpowered. It is said that some monsters are easy to kill. However, what will he do if he gets injured? It could cost him his life, so he'll train until he gains confidence in his abilities. Blood contamination level is 89.9%. The system also added that the body is lacking strength due to the long stay in a coma. Fortunately, the infection can be defeated by ordinary training, and now he only needs to make an effort. What's more, he is a martial artist after all. After all, the guy practiced hard every day. Stair running and Mabu pose were the simplest and most effective exercises he had learned in the Burram. So he set out on the path. But the truth is, the pace of recovery leaves a lot to be desired. It's not enough. The protagonist realized that he needed a drastic change. While Soo Hyuk was in the hospital, his family worked hard. Even if it's hard, he has to overcome himself. Soo Hyuk must become a hunter in the next few days. The guy engaged the sacred source earth technique. This technique is the greatest among the meditation techniques in Hwang country. It is known for its effectiveness, but it also has a hidden bonus, namely the potential of the awakened one. Pushing the boundaries of the possible, he draws on the energy of nature and is reborn anew. However, pushing the boundaries of what is possible for one's body is incredibly difficult. Only 3 people in the entire Hwang country know about this technique. He probably wants too much. But Soo-hyuk won't get anywhere if he doesn't want too much. The protagonist is determined in becoming a better person. Meanwhile, the old guy was complaining that they should have moved him to the flat part of town. His knees are killing him. After which, the main character rushed past him. Seems like young people have nowhere to put their energy. I wish he were 10 years younger. He must not stop. He must not rest. He must not give up. Soo-hyun will reach his goal. The most important thing is not to stop at one place. If he overcomes that internal barrier, it's worth any effort. Because in Murim he was called Ilcheon, the emperor of martial arts. He even mentally asked the Black Mountain monk if he was right in his conclusions. Every day and every night she would make up laps on the stairs. The neighbors also noticed that this kid had been running in circles all day. They assumed that he must have been sick with something. They didn't even know who he was, but he was clearly impressive. The man even complained that his son, who plays on the computer every day, better be like him. Well, he could use a jogging machine himself. Said the man told him to watch his language. He doesn't have much time left. Just a little bit. He took another breath. Soo-hyun felt that he was already close to the limit. He doesn't have much left, so he can't give up. And then he can overcome the barrier. The system reported being impressed with the indomitable spirit of the awakened one. Afterward, she reported that a unit had been added to strength and stamina. Soo-hyun felt that he had become stronger. After which, the hidden bonus of the sacred earth source technique was activated. The user had reached awakening. He had broken the 3-star barrier. Blood contamination, 30%. The system responds to the strong will of the awakened one. She also reported that he had leveled up. Soo-hyuk was now at the 2nd level. His stamina has been restored 100% and all injuries have been extracted. He ran to the top. The boy shouted happily. Soo-hen knew that he would succeed. The system expressed its respect to the awakened man. Practicing the sacred earth source technique carried over a new skill called iron bones. The system rewarded the awakened with a special attribute of willpower. The system will always maintain it. Now he can finally be a hunter. The next day, he wanted to come early in the morning, but he had to register his abilities first, and that took a long time. The hunter registration office is on the 3rd floor. To him, the very notion of superpowers seems unrealistic. Superpowers that appear on their own without practicing martial arts or magic. Maybe that's why the system window remained blank until this morning. His only superpower that the system determines is the sacred earth source technique. Soo-hyun developed it by himself, but the protagonist learned that hunters must have at least 3 superpowers. So he quickly became skilled in martial arts. That's why he quickly became skilled in martial arts. He had 6 A-rank techniques. The sacred earth source technique, iron fist technique, wind kick, ghost shadow grip, heavenly demon fencing, exorcist spear, and 1 A+ rank technique, hurricane step. Soo-hyun was really just experimenting and ended up with so many abilities. But it doesn't matter. For someone who wants to get rich quick, standing out is what he must do. The man complained that he had a lot of testing to do today, and most of the people being tested turned out to be ordinary people, without any abilities. He was approached by the main character, who informed him that he was here for a superpower test. The man only sighed and said to put his hand on this ball. If it begins to emit light, it means that this person is awakened. If not, then he is not awakened and can leave this place. There seem to be a lot of people signing up for the test who are convinced they have the ability, but are actually wrong. However, he is quite confident, because the system itself is communicating with him. The balloon began to sparkle. The man was a little surprised at the awakened man in front of him, but he congratulated their main character. He wanted to start the registration. He asked me to fill out this questionnaire. Soo-hyun didn't expect it to be that simple. The apparatus simply confirmed that it had magic, and that was it. After a while, the guy filled out a questionnaire. A look of disbelief appeared on his face. The protagonist had level 1 and registered as many as 42 abilities. Soo-hyun asked if it was forbidden. He sighed, explaining that it wasn't forbidden. It just doesn't happen that way. Of course he understood that the man was glad to be an awakened one, but there was no need to play a trick on anyone here. Soo-hyun also thought it was a bit much, but is there really no such thing at all? And yet for some reason, the man wouldn't take his word for it. The protagonist asked if he could switch the system to visible mode and show that as proof of his words. The man replied that of course he could do that. However, he did not understand at all what it would change. After which, many abilities appeared before his eyes. He noticed that this person really had more than 10 abilities. In addition, they were all A rank, and even higher. Soo-hyun asked if he was convinced of the truth of his words. The man replied that he had, so he offered to formalize it as soon as possible. He apologized sincerely for not believing the young man in front of him. The man with red hair then asked if the information was accurate. The man confirmed, for he had seen it all with his own eyes. It's been a while since they've had an interesting specimen like Yang Soo-hyuk. Meanwhile, the protagonist was practicing again. He felt like his heart was going to explode over the run from the association straight to his house. It added one to endurance. But the rewards from the damn system are still pretty good. Looks like you're gonna give him diabetes. Soo-hyuk thought he could immediately start his job as a hunter, but it was a long way off as it turned out. A hunter is required to take a training course. The state created a training program to avoid wasted, careless deaths in dungeons. The hunter training course begins on the last day of the month, and today is October 26th. That leaves him 5 days. Soo-hyuk would like to opt out of this course, but it's mandatory. So for now, he will train hard so that he will be in better shape by the time the course starts. He will do it for his family and himself. 5 days flew by really quickly. The protagonist counted that there were 50 people here. He really didn't expect there to be so many people here. Soo-hyuk had heard that people didn't try hard to get into this profession because it was dangerous to life. It's not really his concern. He noticed that some energy had just flashed past him. They heard a woman's voice saying that 48 people had gathered, after which she appeared in front of them and asked for their attention. Some people were even surprised that there was an elven woman in front of them. The girl thought she was very beautiful. Could it really be a real elf? When Soo-hyuk noticed her, she had already appeared at that spot. He lost all his concentration and didn't feel it until it was too late. It was clear that it wasn't just speed. It must be something else. He even assumed it was some special elven ability. Either way, it's pretty interesting. Understandably, she turned her attention to the protagonist. The association had asked for her to take a closer look at him after all. Even with only a level 1, this guy still managed to sense her presence in energy form for a second. Even among the gifted elves, she had not encountered such a thing. It was very intriguing. People whispered about someone seeing a real elven woman for the first time. But even seeing it with your own eyes, it's hard to believe. But it's still very beautiful. She greeted the students. The elfess then explained that the Korean government had sent her to teach this course for a novice hunter. As it turns out, this elf's name is Shahar Kaliluriat, and she is a warrior from Elvenheim. She will be teaching the Earthlings. They may refer to her as Instructor Ball. For convenience and brevity, he thought the name sounded like a name for a puppy, which was really cute. The girl mentally thought that she was very beautiful. How could she be so beautiful in reality? This guy with a snake tattoo on his arm just watched silently. It was the first time an elf was taking part in an educational program on this planet. She was sure they had a lot of questions. But they don't have much time to get to know each other. So she would only take 3 questions. She really wanted to ask her question. The main character seemed to be a middle school girl. The balloon instructor really liked her enthusiasm, so she inquired about this girl's name. Becky Young introduced herself and also mentioned that she was 19 years old as well. Others seemed to dislike the idea of even letting children into these courses. He confirmed his hunch that she was indeed from high school. The instructor was pleased to meet Becky Young, after which she asked to ask her question. She shouted happily that she was such a beautiful girl. Besides, Yeon had never seen even an elf girl so beautiful before. She was a little perplexed by these words. Yi-young only looked embarrassed and laughed awkwardly. The balloon instructor sighed and said her manner of speaking was rather interesting. She raises her hand to ask a question, but instead compliments her looks. She is the first among the sword masters of the Kaliluriat family. As such, she prefers to be seen not just as a woman, but above all, as a warrior. Whereupon the instructor told the next one to ask his question. Some of the people raised their hands, but she chose the man with the tattoo. He was the first to raise his hand so he can ask his question. He stared at his tattoo and thought he had fallen behind fashion. Somehow he thought that decent people didn't have tattoos like that. This man's name is Jin Jang-hyuk, and the question may seem very strange. He asked if felons can take this course. He had read that it was allowed with the consent of the instructor. The balloon instructor wondered what crime this man had been convicted of. He averted his so-so gaze from her, talking about committing a small theft. She doesn't approve of stealing, but the ball instructor promises that he will be treated the same as any of the students, and no one has to remember his misstep. In Elvenheim, offenders are given a choice. They can either serve the people or defend the homeland. Jin Chan-hyuk has shown that she wants to protect the motherland by coming here. She calls it Lang Dare, and on Earth it's a kind of repentance with honor. Jang Hyuk has stumbled, so he'll have to try harder than the others. But he must never forget that the law has begun. He should remember that and act with integrity. Sin can't be erased, but that doesn't mean you can't be forgiven for it. Jang Hyuk thanked the elfess and also said that he understood her. After which it was the turn for the last question. She noticed a hand that was raised quite quickly. The instructor inquired about the person's name. It was Yang Soo-hyuk. The balloon instructor said she knows, since they've been revisiting them for a while now. Others have started gossiping that the two seem to know each other. However, that doesn't seem to be true. He was a little uncomfortable at the word that he was being looked at. The instructor asked if that was his question. The boy shook his head, indicating that he had a different question. Namely, whether she was the only instructor for this entire group. The instructor responded that no, but she understands what the question is about. She is indeed the main instructor, but she can't teach them all the subjects herself. So she will have assistants, namely Earthlings. But in combat training, she alone will teach the lessons. The protagonist responded that he understood that. So she's kind of like a principal in a school, but also a classroom teacher on an action movie. It's pretty interesting. The instructor said that they could ask other questions in the next class, and just as she wanted to move on to the next stage, she was stopped. Personally, he doesn't trust me as an elf. She looked at him with some contempt. He looked at the others and wondered if he was right. She's not even human after all. So why should she teach them? Past instructors had a rank that was confirmed by the association, and she doesn't have that rank. And he highly doubts she's capable of anything in combat with her looks. He even thought it looked like she was hunting for anything but combat. Since he wants proof, he'll get it now. After which, the elfess attacked the man with her power. He covered himself with his hand, wanting to protect himself from that blow. But it was a devastating attack that struck all the people standing near him. They were bewildered, and didn't realize what it had just been. People could not move, and this man who was convulsively grabbing his throat couldn't even breathe. The instructor recognized that it is legitimate to demand proof. However, subordination is equally important. There will be no more warnings. She realizes it's possible to underestimate the situation. Well, if it happens again, there'll be no mercy. This fear even made the man wet his pants. But her attention was caught by the main character who was firmly on his feet, the people around him already lying down. She couldn't believe that everyone had fallen off their feet and he was even able to endure. But this is a level 1 who hasn't even smelled gunpowder. How is that even possible? There was a reason she'd been told this guy was worth watching. He could be sent on a dungeon raid right now. Soo-hyuk felt like it came out awkwardly. Perhaps he should have pretended to fall down with everyone else. This is a clear example that willpower and ability are not the same thing. So she shouldn't jump to conclusions. We need to observe him. At last their bodies began to obey, and people were able to stand up. Some even had back pain. It was a marvelous introduction. The instructor really hoped that these recruits would not make her angry during the training. After which, she turned around to leave, saying that they would see each other at the next class. Today in class they will be studying a monster similar to the feline family. Maybe it's been too long since he's studied, because he can't even concentrate. He really wanted to get down to business already. The balloon instructor noticed that he was yawning, so she decided to shake it with a light breeze. Whenever he's distracted for a moment, she brings him to his senses. She didn't seem to want him distracted at all. He certainly understands the instructor, but Soo-hyuk has never been known for being plotting. After that, he noticed Chan-hek's gaze on him. And as soon as the main character's attention was drawn to him, he immediately turned his head away. Jang Hyuk was a little surprised that this guy was able to notice. We have to pretend that nothing is going on. Soo-hyuk assumed that this guy wanted to write him off. The main character didn't even expect Jang Hyuk to be so shy. And again the wind blew at him. The instructor turned her attention to Cadet Yang Soo-hyuk and asked him to stay focused on listening to the material. Still about the setting and adamant instructor. And the main character even suggested that they wouldn't have a good relationship. The teacher was finishing his lecture and also told the guys to reread their notes later. Otherwise, they risked failing the exam. The students were all crabby. Yet they agreed with the teacher's words. The teacher wept. For in his entire career, he had never met such grateful and attentive students. If everyone were like that, the world would be a better place. The instructor also saw the teacher's good mood. Soo-hyuk was also approached by Yen, who greeted the crowd. He recognized this schoolgirl immediately. Ilcheon immediately mentioned that she is a student. After saying that, he remembered that she was 19. And that's what Yeon herself had said yesterday. Still, she didn't really like being perceived as a schoolgirl. The protagonist inquired as to what she wanted. The balloon instructor was making everyone pay attention, and Soo-hyuk was the only one who could stand up to her. The guy didn't even realize that she would be able to notice it. Under such magical pressure, Yi Yen couldn't have the strength to look around. Joining them in the conversation was Jang Hyuk, who also noticed it, and he admitted that it was unbelievable. Yi Yong asked the man if his heart was made of steel or what. How on earth was he able to withstand such an impulse? Soo Hyuk only sighed, saying that he had a heart like her own. He was just lucky. The girl replied that she was seriously asking. Jang Hyuk thought it was cool that he was also humble. Soo Hyuk asked if that was the reason he'd been looking in his direction the whole class. Jang Hyuk apologized, saying that he was just amazed at his ability. No need to make excuses like that. Maybe these two aren't as bad as he thought they were in the beginning. Yi Yen suggested that we have lunch together at a cafe. They seemed to be the only ones who asked the instructor a question. Namely, the three questioners. But Soo Hyuk refused, saying that they could go without him. Yi Yong thought it was unfair. He's using his powers to get away from them. Jang Hyuk was impressed with the main character, because he has a lot of charisma. And Yen was a little confused as to why this man was so unsociable. Theoretical classes will run for 30 days. Something cannot be taken away or added to this period of study. This is the policy of the Ministry of Education. He wants to finally pass the exam and get into combat training. Surprisingly, a huge percentage of cadets fail the exam and drop out at this stage. Soo Hyuk must study hard. The instructor keeps them from relaxing all the time. But for some reason, the instructors on the theoretical part of the course are convinced that their flow will be extraordinarily successful. However, this does not mean that every single person will get credit. The exam is not that difficult, but you still need to study. Yi Young told him that if he failed the theory exam, a curse would fall on him and he would never be able to take the exam again. Soo Hyuk replied that he had heard that. She didn't understand how this could be at all. I guess the crowd could even feel her heart clench with fear. Soo Hyuk thought about her being a small actress. He also replied that maybe it's just not worth it to fail the exam. Besides, he doesn't believe that. People probably don't get credit for some other real reason. She wondered what that reason was. Soo Hyuk turned his attention to the people talking nearby. The guys were chatting merrily about not going to the next class better to eat. Some of them even offered to have a drink. They didn't understand why they had to cram all this now, because they could leave it for the last days of the exam. Yi Yong noticed their attitude as well. Afterward, Soo Hyuk said that he would go and advised her not to skip the extra class. She didn't like the fact that this man was as cold as a block of ice. That is indeed a valid reason, but he has to devote his free time to his family first and foremost. After all, this is the happiness he has only fought long and hard for. And now he will value his family above all else. It didn't take long for a month to pass, and it was time for the exam. Jang Hyuk was very nervous. They would know the test results by the end of the day. Yeon replied that her heartbeat is also very slow. Chan Hek asked perplexedly, "Does he have to say it out loud? He's nervous enough as it is." The girl wondered if what she was saying was making him nervous. The guy looked away nervously, confirming her hunch. She started circling around him, talking about how her heart is pounding really fast. It's doing a knock knock knock. After that, Jang Hyuk started chasing after Baek Yi Young. At the same time, Soo Hyuk told them to be quiet, because the results had come in. They immediately stopped fighting. After that, the table had the names of the students who had passed the exam. All three of them passed. Baek Yi Young even managed to place with a high score. She was glad she had gotten the credit. Besides, all three of them could do it. He thought she was counting crows in class. The boy didn't understand how she managed to get the highest score. Yi Young revealed that she studied diligently, but in a way that no one would notice. He only laughed awkwardly, saying that he understood everything. This was absurd. Jang Hyuk even started crying because he was really able to pass the exam. Finally, he can show his brothers that he's good for something. Yang Soo Hyuk and Baek Yi Young were also happy for his success. Jin Jang Hyuk is marginalized at first glance, but deep down he's a normal guy. Soo Hyuk had been watching him for the whole course and noticed that he was very diligent in his studies. That's why they got almost the same grade. He also learned about his life. Jang Hyuk raised her three younger brothers alone. The father died of an addiction to alcohol. The mother, who could not stand the beatings from living with an alcoholic, had long ago disappeared from their lives in an unknown direction. So from his sophomore year of high school, he actually took on the role of the head of the family. Jang Hyuk grew up in a dysfunctional environment, which even affected his appearance. But he's not a bad guy. He's actually responsible and reliable. Jang Hyuk committed a theft to feed his brothers and went to jail for it. But when he came back, he started working and paid all his debts to his family. This alone characterizes him as a good man. Soo-hyuk replies that this guy has been through a lot just like him. He knows that Jong-hyuk likes to act more than sit at a desk. He told him to try his best, and then he'll succeed. Jang-hyuk wiped his tears and thanked Soo-hyuk. Soo-hyuk wondered what he had done. Jang-hyuk did everything on his own. He just saw how hard the main character was trying, and decided to try harder himself. And he thanked him again. Soo-hyuk only sighed, saying that there was no need to flatter him. He might as well not even try to do so. Yi-young congratulated the two, and also mentioned that they would now finally move on to combat training. Still, Yeon helped him a lot too. She stayed late in class and explained all the material she had learned to Jang Haeok. That girl must have been difficult for him, and Yeon replied that comrades needed to be helped out. Soo-hyuk didn't even expect that this schoolgirl helped him study. This means that she's not as silly as she seems from the beginning. After that, Chanhek got a call back, and he told me that he had gotten credit. He said he could do it. And now they'll have a new and better life. Soo-hyuk was sorry to bring him back to reality, but there were still a lot of difficulties ahead. Jang-hyuk promised to buy them some fried chicken. He also noticed that out of 49 people, only 42 received a passing grade. As far as he knew, about half of the class usually dropped out. Though kicking and screaming, the ball instructor got them through those exams. She must be a really outstanding teacher. They didn't even hope that they would get a passing grade. The kids were happy about it. Combat training begins next week. The week went by like a blink of an eye. The balloon instructor welcomed everyone here to the meeting. She introduced herself again, and also mentioned that she was the leader of the 8th group. But these guys already know who she is. Jang-hyuk and Baek Yi-young clapped enthusiastically. Soo-hyuk clapped too, but he did it less joyfully. He admitted that it was really incredible because they had come such a long way together, and on top of that they were put on the same team. The instructor said that she personally distributed the flow into groups. After all, people with the same interests interact better with each other. But the leader of this group of instructors was appointed by fate itself. One could say that their destinies were joined by the world tree. Yi-young believed that it was indeed fate, but she warned these kids not to expect her to take pity on them in the first class. They immediately felt the pressure that came from the instructor. Looks like this elf girl decided to establish discipline right away. Now he had a feeling that they would finally get into a real fight. The balloon instructor announced that they will go to the portal. She also asked Jin Chang-hyuk to tell her what a portal was. The guy replied that it was an entrance to other worlds. He was right, but not all portals are the same. The instructor asked Yang Soo-hyuk if he remembered what the group went through the last week before the exam. Soo-hyuk explained that portals fall into two broad categories: portals to friendly worlds and portals to hostile worlds. Hostile measures have degrees from 1 to 13. The higher the degree of the portal, the more dangerous it is. These guys were very inattentive in class, but she is pleased that they were actually able to learn everything. And today they are going into the hostile portal of the 1st degree. Yi-young liked the idea. The balloon instructor asked Baek Yi-young what a 1st degree portal was. The girl happily told me that it was inhabited by the least dangerous monsters. Also, there are not very many of them, so such portals are suitable for training beginners. The instructor asked if this meant that such a portal would be easy to clear. The girl blurted out that it would be very easy. The instructor's facial expression changed, and she asked if they really thought these monsters were incapable of killing a human. The boys immediately fell silent. Soo-hyuk replied that these monsters are still as capable of killing a human. They're quite capable of killing these three, so now they're going to see something else, namely bloodthirstiness. An ominous energy enveloped the two of them, causing them to even find it difficult to breathe. But Soo-hyuk felt great even with the intimidation. She was surprised that her skill didn't work on this guy. Soo-hyuk even thought about the fact that he should have pretended. The guy really pretended like he was having a hard time too. The instructor responded that there was no need to pretend. The guys aren't used to it, but are bound to get used to the feeling. Like she said, the monsters are capable of killing them. If the monster's aggression frightens them, their chances of survival become nil. Jang-hyuk and Baek Yi-young were wary, unlike Soo-hyuk. Of course, the instructor noticed that all but one was scared. She didn't even expect the dry man to withstand this pressure, so she just had to ask that. Namely, if he'd been in combat yet. He inarticulately replied that he sort of was. The instructor replied, which is kind of a non-answer. This guy is full of mystery, but he may not reveal all his secrets. Nevertheless, to back up his words, he will have to back them up with a department as well. If they run, they will reach the Mapo subway station within an hour. Soo-hyuk asked if they would just run there. She doesn't know how to use public or private transportation, so there's no other way. Plus, they could use a little exercise before the fight. Yang Soo-hyuk is the leader of the 8th group. That's why he's going to lead the boys. They'll see each other in exactly 1 hour at the Mapo station. She then left and asked me to escort these guys to the station. There wasn't much of a choice, so Soo-hyuk suggested running. Yi-young didn't want to run. Jang-hyuk agreed. The 2 men then rushed forward. The girl shouted for them to wait for her. After a while, they arrived at the station to which they had fled. Yi-young and Jang-hyuk were trying to catch their breath after running like this. Soo-hyuk is of course used to this kind of training. The instructor didn't even expect them to get here that fast. That's a great result. The guys thought their hearts would even stop from exhaustion. Soo-hyuk remembered their fear when the instructor demonstrated the bloodthirstiness of the monster to them. But now, after the run, the body should be relaxed. Did she really intend this from the beginning? If that's true, her teaching talent is greater than he first thought. It seems she was given the job of running the state's education program for a reason. After which 10 minutes passed. The instructor asked if they were ready to go into the portal. The boys answered that they were ready. If that's the case, then they start. The name of the first stage portal at Mapo Station is Muge. Literally, it means a world without borders. While preparing for the exam, he learned something rather interesting. There are several portals called Muge. These are desert worlds that have the same name, but no one lives in them, and nothing of value lives there. However, some witnesses claim that traces of ancient, long-extinct civilizations have been found in these portals. This naturally leads to some thought. What if all of Muge are actually the sites of ancient civilizations? It's not that unlikely. This looks like it's going to be pretty interesting. Then they came out of the portal. The boys began to look around. The desert land of Muge, and saying that the temperature here averages -2 degrees Celsius. That's very cold. The instructor will give them free rein. Also, they must be careful when advancing forward. You never know where you will download a monster from. It's home to the monsters of the Narus. They are 4-legged monsters that are similar to the canine family, averaging 3 meters at the withers. Of course, the main method of attack is to bite with their powerful jaws. They have a long jump. This type of monster hunts in packs of 3 or 5. Even though they are rank 1 monsters, they can be very dangerous to newcomers. However, it won't be too difficult for him. So why is he so confident? The answer is simple. Soo-hyuk has been diligently preparing on theory and also continued training, therefore his stats have increased this month. But the most effective on the bonus effect of the Sacred Earth Source technique. Passive skill. The path and inner development of the Tao. Energy recovery rate and efficiency increased by 200% of the base rate. 20% enhancement while using martial arts. He had a hard time getting used to the system here at first. But the bonuses from the system and the bonuses from the stats were too good. So compared to his classmates, the protagonist is much stronger. If you add martial arts skill and combat experience to that, it comes out to be about 2nd, at best 1st level of skill. He was able to regain that level in just a month. Therefore, he has no reason to fear anything in the 1st-degree portal. Soo-hyuk told his group to stop, for he had noticed something. He reported that they had decided to give them a rather warm welcome. There were as many as 5 individuals in front of them. However, she didn't see it as a problem, for she was sure these guys could handle it. Most importantly, they shouldn't panic. Group 8 should prepare for battle. There's no need to attack. They just have to let them get close to them. Soo-hyuk thought it was boring. After all, he could handle them right now. But it seemed better to obey the order. He also noticed that his partners had no weapons. The association said they would provide them with weapons. Soo-hyuk prefers to fight without weapons, but don't these guys need them? The bloodthirsty wolves immediately rushed to attack. The instructor then informed them that they could begin. Thick blades emerged from Chan-hek's knuckles, and he rushed to attack. Soo-hyuk stared in surprise and wondered if he was really getting hit on by a wolverine. He glanced at Yen, then realized she was a support or possibly a healer. And now, apparently, it's his turn. The protagonist used a technique called Hurricane's Footsteps. Jang-hyuk was very surprised when he noticed that Soo-hyuk had overtaken him. Soo-hyuk really wanted to see what he could do in his current state. He nimbly managed to dodge the monster's sharp fangs. And then he promoted the palm technique, Iron Fist technique, cross-cutting attack. Another monster was thinking of attacking him from behind. He pushed himself off the ground and leaped at the monster, using a deadly kick with his foot. The wind's death. Thus, he defeated another individual. Yi-young and Jang-hyuk couldn't imagine their leader being capable of such a thing at all. The girl thought it was simply unbelievable. Even the orb instructor's face took on a tinge of ineptitude, for she didn't even believe that it was definitely a cadet. After that, another monster appeared there. Soo-hyuk turned around to see who was approaching him. Whereupon, he immediately pushed himself back at full speed towards the wolf. But all Start could do was stare fearfully at the one who was about to kill him. The protagonist used the Iron Fist technique, fractional destructive attack. The orb instructor knew she had to remain impartial, but she just couldn't look at it calmly. She even wanted to take this man back to Elvenheim. It seemed to be helped by the past experience of a martial arts master. His body was very quickly engaged in the fight. Well, of course, the system also helped him. If Soo-hyuk was in Hwang country right now, he would be among the elite warriors. And now all that was left were these two, who were already rushing at him. He'd love to do it himself. But Guy has to give others a chance to stretch themselves. For him, it's just a checkmark. But for the guys, it's a very valuable experience. Yi-young and Jang-hyuk saw the main character. He sat down. The guy was beginning to assume that Soo-hyuk wanted them to handle this on their own. In that case, they'll deal with those monsters themselves. With his ability, he was able to chop the monster in half. Afterward, Jang-hyuk heard a voice in Yeon yelling for him to turn back around. There was already a monster behind him who was getting ready to kill the guy. Nothing occurred to him but to put his elbow under that blow. After that, he stuck his steel claws right into the throat of his opponent. He didn't even realize when the thing had gotten around him. A warm, healing light began to emanate from his hands and Yen. She began to heal his wounds. He was a little shocked that his wound was completely gone. Now Soo-hyuk had confirmed his speculation that she was a Heller. That's an ability he could use. There were already 4 monsters running towards the 3 of them. They obviously didn't even want to let the guys rest. But the truth is, Soo-hyuk is already used to it. It's time to finish what he started. A little while later, they finally emerged from the dungeon. Yi-young and Jang-hyuk complained that they were too tired after this class. You can understand these guys. After all, this was their first 6-way battle. The orb instructor cheerfully praised these guys. She knew that the awakened Earthlings would not disappoint her. The kids have become not only tough but also strong. Such rapid development right during battle is almost impossible. These words were true. Yi-young as well as Jang-hyuk stopped better with each attack. Sung-hyuk, however, was originally already a martial arts master. The guy thought it was just his talent, but maybe it was even the help of the system. The instructor assumed that this team would be ready for combat missions very soon. And as their instructor, she was quite satisfied. These guys have done a good job, so they are free to go for today. Yi-yeon and Jang-hyuk were happy because they would finally be able to rest. The instructor stopped Yang Soo-hyuk, asking if she could talk to him for a few minutes. She had a feeling that his martial arts skill was not derived from the system. After all, it was much more graceful and effective. She even wondered if she was wrong in her guess. But if he is uncomfortable with the question, he may not answer it. But Soo-hyuk decided to tell me. He had indeed studied martial arts. Now her hunch was confirmed. But the dossier said that he was in a coma until recently. So it's not clear how he could have learned martial arts in just a month. It's really impossible. But the universe is big, and there may still be things even she doesn't know. Soo-hyuk wondered why on earth she was asking about that. The girl only sighed, saying that she saw him as an outstanding talent. The boy replied that he had often been told this, but it was mostly the people of Hwang country. She also noted the fact that he gave his team members their first combat experience. She put him in charge for a reason. Many people hold positions of responsibility, but not everyone behaves so naturally. Maybe it's because Yang Soo-hyuk is such a person. He's just exceptional. Unexpectedly, a blush appeared on the boy's face. He looked away embarrassed, talking about how the instructor was giving him too much credit. The girl sighed happily, indicating that she was saying it from the heart. Now, Soo-hyuk also recognized that it was not uncommon for elves, but she was still very beautiful. There weren't even beauties like this in the Hwang country. He decided to push such thoughts away from him. This wasn't the time for that. Today, it was as if they had hunted, but it was definitely not enough for him. After all, he was only recently the martial arts emperor of the Hwang country. Soo-hyuk is quickly regaining his strength, but is still very far from the top. But he shouldn't rush things now. His impatience wouldn't make a difference anyway. Everything will be in order, step by step toward his goal. On the 3rd day of training, the protagonist could almost already earn more than 10 million won a month. With the team, they cleared several level 1 and level 2 portals, and were also able to make money from the loot. Skin, teeth, and other components that are extracted from monsters in the dungeon have a price. Through this, the protagonist was able to earn about 1.5 million won. He decided not to tell his family just yet. It was never too late to tell them the news. After all, if he took the money to his family right away, he would have to tell them where he had gotten it. Yi-young noticed that the main character was somehow joyful, even in a situation like this where there were a lot of monster corpses. Soo-hyuk asked if it was really that visible. The girl replied that it was even too visible. The boy explained that the loot was worth a lot of money. He couldn't even count how many of these masters they had killed. The balloon instructor mentioned that if anyone saw them now, they would consider them dangerous. Yi Young was even a little envious, since they both were able to adjust so well, especially Yang Hyuk. And we had a hard time at first, but now he's like a fish out of water. I bet these guys are probably trying for money too. What suddenly appeared was a flying arrow that held its direction at Chang Hyun. And after all, the guy didn't suspect anything and thought that even in the portals of the second rank, it was no longer so difficult to cope. Fortunately, Soo Hyun was able to catch that arrow in time. Soo Hyun's hand that caught that arrow was trembling violently. He didn't realize what had just happened, but it was clear that this arrow did not belong to some goblin. It was a human arrow. Among the grass, 2 men crawled out. The boys saw that the 8th group had already finished. This was the 3rd team. One of its members only needed 1 goblin to level up. It was a pity they hadn't gotten here before the 8th team. After which, a girl named Jin Chae-yoon walked up to the 2 of them. Of course, she noticed the team that the balloon instructor was running. The balloon instructor also recognized the 3rd team led by Young Soo-jung. It wasn't like she hadn't requested their help in the portal. So the instructor really wanted to know what this team was doing here. Kim Cho-leek stated that they don't even need a request for help. Hunting together is always the best option. Lee Jong-guk replied that the ball instructor is no longer their instructor. Yi Yen thought those guys were obviously crazy since they didn't realize that the report didn't kill Jang Hyuk. Chaeyeon apologized, saying that she didn't do it on purpose. It's not like they killed that guy anyway. The balloon instructor got very angry, saying that they should apologize immediately. After that, Young Soo-jung, who was the instructor of the 3rd team and a member of the Amugi Guild, arrived. Instructor Young asked if she wanted to give them a lecture. She is currently an 8th team instructor, but giving instruction to all recruits is her responsibility. Soo-jung admitted that she really is as cold as ice. There's a reason they call her the flower of death in her homeland. But she has to realize that children can get dumbfounded sometimes. Chae-young laughed, saying that it was unintentional. But even if it was unintentional, she endangered someone else's life by doing so. Therefore, one should at least apologize. Moreover, interfering with someone else's portal cleanup process is a serious offense. She found this instructor to be very boring. It seems that talking to elves is always uninteresting. Soo-jung advised her not to cross the road. Ball's instructor replied that she was forgetting herself. After all, the orb is not only the instructor of the 8th team, but also the head instructor of the entire recruit training program. It was Soo-jung who was the one who crossed her path, not the other way around. Soo-jung only turned around and mentioned that it's just impossible to talk to her. She commands like an old generaless. After that, the girl agreed to leave and let them take their prey, and if she didn't like something she could safely write a complaint to the Amugi Guild. After that, Soo-jung said goodbye to them. The balloon instructor tried to stop her somehow, but these guys just ignored her screams. After which the boys returned from the portal. Jang Hyuk thanked Soo-hyuk for the save. It was kind of embarrassing for him to accept such gratitude. But if it wasn't for the main character's actions, Jang Hyuk would have been seriously injured. He also wanted to take his friend to a restaurant sometime. Soo-hyuk replied that there was no need to do that. But if he was serious, a cafe would be enough. And she didn't like being abandoned again. Last time they hadn't thought of her at all either. Those 2 couldn't even think she'd overheard them. They thought the girl had left. Yi Yen explained that she had just taken it to the restroom for a minute, and then stepped out to wait for them. Soo-hyuk apologized to her. Soo-hyuk suggested that they all go to a restaurant together. Yi Young wondered what the occasion was. She didn't mind, and since Soo-hyuk is rich today, she suggested that he should even treat them. Now the guy understood what she was getting at. The next day, they practiced in the dungeon again. The system reported a level up. His body had been refined by 40%. The efficiency of the techniques that depended on chi energy had been increased. The Ren and Du meridian had been opened, and the energy recovery rate and efficiency was increased by 200% from the baseline. He's leveling up and getting stronger and stronger. He's finally getting into the rhythm of the fight. At this rate, Soo-hyuk will soon regain his status as the first martial artist in the world. Maybe he should tell his family now. The protagonist suddenly felt something, but before he could react, another arrow destroyed the instructor balloon. She really didn't like the fact that instructor Young Soo-jung had been stopping by the 8th group's hunting grounds too often lately. Young Soo-jung came out, replying that it was a big nuisance. However, it didn't happen by accident. Chaeyeon said that she just shot that way because the instructor told her to. She didn't know that this group was here, so she apologized. The balloon instructor said these guys are provoking her, but Soo-jung thought that it was the balloon instructor who was provoking her. Yesterday, she immediately went and filed a complaint against her with the Amugi Guild. She thought that when someone committed Togo's crimes against him, one should at least make a complaint. Didn't the instructor think so? She really didn't like this conversation. She had gone too far. Soo-jung didn't understand why she should talk to her. Perhaps she should just kill them all here on the spot. The balloon instructor knows this girl has a personal grudge against her, but this time she went over the top. Shahar even thought it was about that guy named Sunmung Hak. He heard that Soo-jung has a crush on him. The woman screamed for her to shut her mouth. Soo-hyuk couldn't even imagine that it was a fight over a man. How could she even provoke a serious conflict over trivial jealousy? The orb instructor told her that the guild wouldn't be able to protect her forever. She better apologize and end this conflict before it's too late. Soo-jung angrily wondered what the instructor would do in case she didn't stop all this. Would she really plan to kill her? Of course, she won't resort to murder, but make sure that Soo-jung will answer to the law. She became even more angry, not realizing who this elven woman was to accuse her like that. This woman began to release a dark and sinister energy. The boys guessed it was that dark art. She was going to attack the 8th group as well as the instructor, but it's too late to do anything about it now. She was able to mirror this dark art with ease. Soo-jung just couldn't understand how she could do all this with such ease, but she can't back down now because she's come too far. It's all or nothing. And she won't kill Soo-jung because she's too noble. She ordered the 3rd team to kill them now. They must tear their opponents apart. The boys certainly didn't expect such an order from the instructor. At the confusion of the 2 subordinates, the instructor asked if they didn't want to join the Amuga Guild. They can at least maim those kids or even chop off their limbs. She just wants results. They were obliged to follow her orders, so they went into battle. There was only a confident smile on Instructor Shahar's face. That certainty really pissed her off. She really wanted to see the look on her face when her recruits tore the 8th team to shreds. Soo-hae noticed that 2 of the team were a warrior and an archer. The last member of their team tore his clothes, after which his body began to transform in size. Soo-hyuk agreed to take on this pig and the archer. The 2 of them should keep the swordsman for a while. He waited until his opponent came right up to him, because he wanted to crush him like a bug. The huge man struck, but luckily the protagonist was able to bounce back from that blow, after which Soo-hyuk landed behind him. Of course he didn't like the nimble little rat. Picking the right moment, Soo-hyuk used the Iron Fist technique, Fist of Destruction. The man started spitting up blood. His entire body was trembling. Soo-hyuk thought he wasn't a bad fighter. After all, he had even withstood his punch. That creep is too slick, so he decided to engage in another plan. He gave a signal to Chae-young. The girl took aim, talking about how she knew everything without him. She released an arrow that traveled straight towards the protagonist with lightning speed. He thought they were able to defeat Soo-hyuk, as if he deserved it. Afterward, they saw that the arrow had crashed straight into the ground. The transformed man heard Soo-hyuk's voice asking where he was looking. In flight, it hit him right on the head. The man had fallen and was now unconscious. Chae-young, who was puzzled, couldn't even believe that Lee Jun-wook had been defeated with just one punch. Soo-hyuk looked at her intimidatingly, indicating that it was now her turn. Her whole body began to tremble and she screamed to stay back. At the same time, the girl was trying to take aim. He used the wind technique to avenge Jang-hyuk, after which the girl was also lying on the ground unconscious. Sounds like the guy's a little too much power. Soo-hyuk heard the pleas for him to be spared as well. Chan-hek's eyes even glowed threateningly. The man began to explain that they didn't want to do it, and they were forced to do it by the witch. Soo-hyuk stopped his partner's hand, trying to calm him down. He explained that the man in front of him was human, not some monster. Jang-hyuk immediately came to his senses and also gave thanks. Now the entire 3rd team was defeated. Soo-jung couldn't believe it either. This sight impressed her so much that she fell to the ground. The orb instructor looked joyfully at her opponent's defeat. Yi-young was impressed. Baekdu-san Guild, the guild vice president, whose name was Im Se-yul, was told that the 3rd and 8th team had fought. He hopes everyone present realizes what they are now dealing with. There was a fight between the recruits, and from the video, it looks like it was a serious fight. Of course, Shahar and Soo-jung were present in this meeting. Normally, Instructor Shahar is the chairperson for this performance. But due to circumstances, Im Se-yul will assume this role. He was sad that he had to remove the 3rd team recruits from the course. But their fault was not so great that they needed to be dismissed. The instructor of the 11th team, Lee Sang-wook, said that one of the recruits incapacitated the entire 3rd team. His actions may seem overkill, but Im Se-yul sees it as necessary self-defense. Chujong, who didn't understand what self-defense was about, jumped up. The 8th team wasn't injured in the slightest, and her students were now in intensive care. The man kindly told the Black Cloud Witch of the Amuga Guild that she was now responsible for the whole event. She had pushed the recruits' foreheads together just for petty jealousy. She was very hung up on those words, but she didn't know what to say to that. He has assumed the authority of a judge in this case, so you have to watch your expressions. The man appealed to Mr. Chairman, saying that this is a blatant violation of subordination. Will he leave all this unanswered? But, of course, he's not going to let this matter rest, which is why he's called a meeting. They're going to vote. Only one recruit is the primary culprit for this incident, namely Yang Soo-hyuk from the 8th team. This recruit is not an easy one, and he has some outstanding talent. That was pretty interesting. He told those who were in favor of punishing Yang Soo-hyuk to raise their hands. But everyone gathered here was silent, and they didn't even raise their hands. Im Se-yul didn't understand what was wrong with them at all. Why they were as if they had water in their mouths. Apparently, other than Lee Sang-wook, the director of the Young-ho Guild, no one wants Yang Soo-hyuk to be punished. In that case, they will now discuss Instructor Shahar's proposal. The instructors suggested that the position of chief instructor should be resigned, and that Im Se-yul should take over the position. Most of the instructors raised their hands, indicating that they agreed. In that case, Instructor Shahar is now a regular instructor in this program. Unless this seemed too light a sanction, she is also required to donate 100 million won to the association. Im Se-yul asked Instructor Shahar if she had any objections. The instructor replied that she did not, and also mentioned that this bout was unfair, so she accepts her punishment. Soo-jong couldn't believe that a demotion and a 100 million won fine were all punishment. She got off too easy. However, the man considers this sufficient punishment. Is the instructor against it? Instructor Soo-jung thought it was just clowning around. The Amuga Guild was just being poured mud, and they were silent. But no one wanted to interfere with this conversation. It seems to him that the Witch of the Black Cloud is completely oblivious, and believes that intrigue will not be held accountable. The woman completely failed to watch her language and called the chairman a bastard. He tapped the table, asking if she even realized where she was now. Did she really think they should be intimidated by the name of this guild? Training recruits is of strategic importance to Korea's national security. In addition, there is no profession more important than protecting the world. And now Soo-jung is ruining the country's strategic human resource because of personal grudges. Therefore, he declared that the Black Cloud Witch and the Amugi Guild were suspended from the government's recruit training program for 3 years. She didn't understand who he was to forbid them anything. He introduced himself as the chief instructor of the 56th recruit training program. The man inquired if they should at least vote on the matter. Now Korea is a democracy after all, so let them vote on the side. Which guild will they stand up for? Baekdu-san or Imugi? Baekdu-san has the first place among the guilds, and Imugi is only in 3rd place. Looks like he just bet on the wrong horse. Imugi looks like the end of the table. This meeting was tense. They had never seen Im Se-yul so angry before. Now it was unclear what would happen to the Amuga Guild. Suddenly, the protagonist heard that he was mentioned in the meeting. It was natural, because one person alone was able to deal with the 3rd team. He, moreover, had high characteristics. Someone even wanted to invite him to their guild before others took him away. And Young noticed that this guy really made a lot of noise. Everyone was talking about him now. Soo-hyuk wondered what had happened at the meeting. Anyway, he has to continue his training. But it's nice to see that he has achievements now. A little while later, he noticed that training and raiding in portals had made him significantly stronger. Now he should invoke the art of connecting heaven and earth. Heaven and earth are joined by one thread. Thus they become one, though separate. 3 elements, 1 essence. Energy emanates from Danjong and circulates through the Ren and Du meridians. This is the technique of the Great Gate County. It's difficult, but he's done this before in Hwang country, so he should be able to do it. Now the meridian Ren and Du are completely unlocked, and all impurity is expelled from the spiritual body. And now he is at the peak of his powers. The system reported that he had gained knowledge of secret martial arts. He had mastered a rank 5 martial art called the Heaven and Earth Unification Art. This martial art could be developed, and his body had undergone a transformation. The quest for change had begun. The user's body has undergone a transformation, a state of unity. Its energy reserve is now divided into 3 parts: upper, middle, and lower, Dan Tian. The storehouse is divided according to the principle of power and energy. The higher his energy, the greater its density. This was his first really big move. A little later, the 8th team went on the raid again. A monster appeared from the ground. Su Hyuk has cultivated one of the strongest martial arts of the Hwang country, the art of connecting heaven and earth. And now he must bring back his movement techniques. The 8th group as well as the instructor were attacked by a monster. Su Hyuk used the Iron Fist technique, an unbreakable will. The guy was satisfied with the carry of this strike. But unfortunately, it took too much energy. There was 42% of QE energy left out of 100. He may not have mastered the technique perfectly yet, but he decided to give it a try anyway. The system reported that he had discovered a new technique, a level 55 martial art called the 8 hieroglyphics step. He approached the monster and struck it with his fist. Due to the force of the blow, the monster flew back a couple of meters. Yi-young noticed that their commander was on a roll today. Jang Hyuk thought that he would really never catch up to him. Shahar noticed that he was moving more deftly and not wasting energy. Could he have become so skillful in just a few minutes? New monsters have emerged from beneath the ground. Su Hyuk immediately paid attention to them and deftly began to evade their attacks. The guy engaged his blood demon fist and started hitting points on the monsters' bodies, after which he engaged in a bloody explosion. The monsters his hands touched exploded, but some of the corpses were still lying on the sand. He looked at the remaining corpses and realized he had killed all the monsters. He looked at his team and laughed awkwardly while Jang Hyuk and Baek Yi-young remained silent. 2 weeks of training in the portals flew by. Im Esayul praised the recruits for their excellent work. All teams except the fools from the 3rd team passed the course to the end. It's happened before, but very rarely. But this flood of recruits has shown outstanding results. Shahar praised the boys. Now no one can call them just small recruits. Their successes were known to everyone, and they would be sought after by the best guilds. They are now free to choose their future path. However, as their instructor, she has something to tell them. Right now, they have no fame or recognition. But it is an honor to protect humanity from a threat. She hopes they make choices they won't regret in the future. That was the end of her farewell speech, but she also added that they had a good job. Yi-young immediately cried and hugged the balloon instructor. If you didn't have the instructor's efforts, she wouldn't have been able to do so much, not being able to do so much. It was indeed a pleasure for her to meet these good folks. Shahar had been honored to accompany them up to this point. Yi-young asked if they would see the instructor again. She also asked if she had a smartphone. Shahar replied that if fate favored them, they would hear the branch tell them about her in the rustling wind. Yeon didn't understand what she meant by that. She was approached by Jang Hyuk, who replied that she was aware that he had a criminal record. The instructor said that for him to become awakened would be an act of restoring his honor. Shahar remembered her words perfectly, but the truth is, he had no honor at all. He had no honorable intentions. That Chok just wanted to make a lot of money. And he never even had in his mind what the instructor taught them. He could have made an honest living, but the guy was just taking the easiest path. He heard the words of the orb, which spoke of how in all the time he had known her, she had never once felt ashamed of the guy. The past cannot determine a person's future. He should remember that Jang Hyun passed Langdae. Now he had nothing to regret and no tears to shed. Shahar advised him to protect others, and that way he could redeem himself. She'll keep an eye on him. After that, she turned her attention to Su Hyuk. Su Hyuk considered it an honor that he was able to fight alongside his instructor. They shook hands, saying that they would meet on the battlefield. The day of Shahar's farewell was sunny, and now they are waiting to be registered as a hunter in the association. Awakened have a rank from 1 to 13. There is only 1 awakened 13th ranked and 5 12th ranked. These 6 make up the center of the entire Korean Defense Force. He was very curious to know what kind of people they were. Most rivers of steep don't even make it to the 1st rank. The man yawned and wanted to say, rank to Mr. Yang Su-hyuk. After which, he immediately woke up when he realized that Yang Su-hyuk was standing in front of him. He reported that the main character had a rank 6. There is a World 8 who are called the best representatives of the human race. They were the awakened ones who had reached the 13th rank. There was one very gifted warrior among them. At the end of his recruit training, when he was a little over 20 years old, he was immediately promoted to the 4th rank. A lone wolf who hasn't joined any guilds in all his time. He has a large number of portal cleanups to his credit. This man's name is Baek Moo-hawk. This was an unprecedented case in Korea. Even in the world, no one else could boast of such rapid development. That is, Su Hyuk's result broke Baek Moo-hawk's record. The association employee asked the guy to wait a little while. He would soon complete this registration and issue him a hunter's license. Su Hyuk didn't expect that there would be such strong hunters on the ground. The Alliance of Worlds, as far as he could remember, classified the capabilities of the human race as average. Elves were higher than humans in that capacity, And the Celestials, who lead the Alliance of Worlds, are the most powerful race in the universe. The enemy of the Alliance was a race of demons. And if humans faced the demons, then humanity would end. But right now, it's just useless speculation. Classifying the strength of the races are divided according to the standards of the celestial race. Earthlings are evolving at a rapid pace. This is happening much faster than the races of other worlds. Therefore, humans may well be able to pull ahead. An employee of the association told Mr. Yang Soo-hyuk that his license was ready. He can check it with this silver bracelet. The silver bracelet began to sparkle. A hologram of a picture of himself, as well as information, appeared in front of him. An employee of the association explained that these bracelets are made by dwarves, and enchantments are put on them by elves. And the protagonist admitted that it was really impressive. The worker asked, "That's all, or was there anything else he wanted to ask?" He immediately turned back when he heard someone calling him. It was a man with red hair and a yellow suit. Soo-hyuk looked over and didn't even remember knowing the guy, so he asked if they knew each other. The man with the fiery red hair remembered that he had forgotten to introduce himself. He apologized for that. After that, he showed his gold bracelet. This man's name is Oh Shin-woo, and he's rank 11. The news that the man had an 11th rank shook him. Oh Shin-woo extended his hand, saying that it was a pleasure to meet this young man. He then suggested that they talk in a more private setting. They went to Mr. Oh Shin-woo's office. The man told his guest to change seats while he brought something very tasty. At the same time, he was loudly humming something to himself under his nose. Soo-hyuk didn't really like that it was too noisy and loud. He pointed to the heater and ordered it to turn on. It had gotten colder in the past few days, so he said this. Oh, Shin-woo was quite sensitive to the cold. Soo-hyuk didn't really care about it. But it was a little strange that this eccentric guy wanted to use a heater in October. After which he handed the protagonist a glass of coffee. Foreigners are crazy about this drink. Oh Shin-woo likes it too. Didn't Soo-hyuk like it? And the protagonist replied that it was fine, although he didn't understand what was wrong with instant coffee. Oh Shin-woo doesn't like to have someone else make his coffee. His assistants are already busy, so there's no need to distract them with such small requests. He's not armless. Soo-hyuk took a sip and asked the man what he wanted to talk about. Oh Shin-woo noticed that this guy doesn't like to go around at all. In fact, he's really into it. He bluntly asked if Mr. Yang Soo-hyuk had thought about joining the Awakened Association. The main character replied that he wouldn't want to do that. Oh Shin-woo remarked that he was pretty straightforward. Hunters don't usually seek association, so he decided to ask the next question. Yang Soo-hyuk immediately assumed that he wanted to ask if the guy had thought about joining the guild. But he wasn't really interested in that. He marveled that this feast had the ability to read minds. But it's really just a hunch. Soo-hyuk added that he has no plans to emigrate either. Oh Shin-woo immediately jumped in, saying that he loves this attitude. He adores this beautiful Korea too. Soo-hyuk surprises him with his abilities. He is a man who has recently come out of a long coma. The man was curious to know what his purpose was. If he can do it, he will be able to fulfill Soo-hyuk's request. The protagonist really hoped that he would be able to get answers from Oh Shin-woo, who is the vice president of the Awakened Association. He wondered how Yeon was doing, as well as Jang Hyuk. The guy looked at his phone and saw that he had received new messages. There was a picture of both Yeon and Jang Hyuk, who reported that they had reached the 3rd rank. He smiled, realizing that these two were definitely not going to be bored. He wrote a message of congratulations and hoped things would pick up for them. However, suddenly Soo-hyuk heard something. He turned towards the source of that strange noise. This really bothered him, so he decided to check it out. He arrived to a concerned group of people. Space itself began to change and a portal appeared. Soo-hyuk didn't understand why this portal appeared here. After that, a siren sounded to announce that a portal had been detected. Citizens should not panic and should go to the shelter located at Shincheon subway station. And also this portal, presumably of rank 5. People began to be evacuated to a shelter. But already 10 people had been pulled right into the portal. The man tried to calm the panicked people by talking about how the Awakened had already arrived. The hunters who were standing near the portal were approached by Soo-hyuk, who asked if they wouldn't save them. He was asked a question to find out who he was. Besides, civilians need to hurry to the shelter. Soo-hyuk raised his hand to reveal a silver bracelet. This silver bracelet meant that he was an awakened one with a high rank. Kim Yu-min introduced himself as a 3rd-ranked guardian. The other hunters hadn't arrived yet. He asked Soo-hyuk if he was going to go in alone. Soo-hyuk knew that in emergency situations, the guards had the right to enter the portal first, but that was only in emergencies. The protagonist asked if this guard thinks this is not the situation right now. Kim Yu-min didn't see the point in risking the awakened for nothing. A couple 3 civilians had gotten into the portal, so they shouldn't risk their lives for them. They are the chosen ones after all. And those guys are just incomprehensible to get into a life-threatening situation. Soo-hyuk started to get angry, not realizing how dare he say such a thing. Kim Yoo-min wondered if it wasn't obvious. They are the awakened ones. They're like regular people to me. It's strange to think that the awakened are on par with ordinary people. If Soo-hyuk is willing to risk his life for some kind of justice, that's very naive. Soo-hyuk pounded on the wall, saying that this was not about justice right now. He didn't understand what was the point of calling himself awakened if he had the power. But he was just hiding like a worthless coward. This guy should be ashamed of himself. The government pays him billions of won, and he's standing there like a stage set. Kim Yoo-min turned around, not realizing what kind of ability this was. This guy flashed through him like a ghost. The man asked if he really didn't know that it was illegal to enter the portal alone. He had better stop, or Kim Yoo-min would report him to the association. Soo-hyuk replied that he wouldn't need his panties there anyway, so he wouldn't stop him. Instead of whining, he'd rather go home to his parents and learn how to be a good son. Kim Yoo-min was angry that this man thinks that if he has a high rank, he can do whatever he wants. Who the hell is this guy anyway? He's going to regret it later. He wished the protagonist was there to be eaten by monsters. And he didn't care about that at all. Suddenly he noticed another awakened one decide to approach the portal. It was Han Tae-min. Kim Yoo-min didn't know what he was doing. He was going to die in the portal. Unlike Kim Yoo-min, Han Tae-min is not a coward who hides under his mother's skirt, so he's not going to hang around when people need help. The other awakened ones, who were also watching this argument, also decided to go through the portal. They looked at Kim Yoo-min in bewilderment. He was shaking with anger. Those idiots had lost their minds. They even thought they were something they couldn't be. It was as if the civilian had woken up in a new world where tropical trees abounded. He immediately thought of Mi Young, who was his daughter. It looks like Daddy is in big trouble. Suddenly he heard a scream. Only then did the man realize that he had fallen into a portal. He decided to run, for he must not die at all. After all, if he died, his daughter and wife would be all alone. He didn't even know how much life insurance he had. He tripped over a root and fell. After that, the man looked up and saw the giant flower that was in front of him. There was nothing he could do as he was grabbed by his leg and lifted into the air. The bloodthirsty flower was preparing to eat the poor man. All he could think of was that he couldn't die like that. The man started calling for help. He really wanted someone to come to his aid. They are mutual. He noticed young Soo-hyuk, who was aiming straight for him. He thought it was a civilian and afterwards realized it was an awakened one. And as soon as the realization came to his mind, he immediately started asking him for help. Flower also noticed Soo-hyuk's appearance. With the help of his vines, he wanted to catch another victim. This flower monster is called Athel. Its purple petals are about 2 meters long. It also has lianas that wag around like tentacles. Soo-hyuk thought about the fact that if he had a sword with him, he would be able to end these with this monster quickly. The situation was not going well. After that, he decided to use a wind kick. First movement, piercing force. With his attack, he punched a hole in that flower. The guy recoiled from the ground, saying that such flowers should be cut in time. After that, he used the vanishing hail technique. The man who was sitting on the ground stared in amazement at the remains of the flower that was falling in front of his eyes. In front of him, Yang Soo-hyuk descended. The guy mentioned that he was a rank 6 hunter to reassure the civilian, because he was safe now. He thanked Soo-hyuk for saving him. After which, Soo-hyuk noticed the other awakened ones running here. Han Tae-min shouted that they wanted to help him too. The man tried to catch his breath and also asked if they were okay. Soo-hyun replied that they were fine. He couldn't even imagine that this man alone handled such a huge attel. Soo-hyun replied that it just so happened. He asked the awakened ones to take care of the man, and he would go in search of other survivors. Han Tae-min noticed that Soo-hyun didn't have anything with him, so he offered his sword. The man told me that this sword could be used to fight the Athels well. This sword seemed quite sturdy by the looks of it. Soo-hyun said thank you, after which he immediately ran to find other survivors. He sensed the presence of many beings in that direction. About 20 people were sucked into the portal. Only one single man has been rescued so far. By all means, he must save all these people and close that portal today. The portal has a primary objective. We need to destroy the cosmic energy center of the power source, and then the portal will close. The center of cosmo energy is a kind of heart that keeps the world alive. It can be a creature, an object, or a structure. If the main portal monster is killed prematurely, it will collapse the world, and all the people trapped in it will die. So first you need to save the survivors, and only then take on the boss. He approached the group of people who were about to defend themselves from the monsters. Fortunately, it wasn't too late. He hadn't picked up a sword in a long time. But he didn't lose his skills, and was able to chop the monster in front of him with precision. Lianas moved in his direction to grab the guy, but he was able to easily deal with the Athels who were attacking him. The system reported that the user had reached a new level. He had obtained an ability called Body and Sword Unity. When fighting with the sword, the speed of QI energy transfer increases by 50%, and the force of the strike increases by 30%. It's almost on par with the best swordsman in the Hwang country. When a group of guards arrived, he told them that he would go after the other survivors, and these guys should hold the defense until Soo-hyuk returned. Han Taemin asked if he was sure he didn't need help. He had already killed a few monsters after all. Fortunately, the world inside this portal isn't that big. Soo-hyuk will bring them survivors. However, if one meeting place is not enough, problems may arise. Split up and designate safe meeting points, and stay in touch. Han Taemin showed the map with the points marked. He'll send me survivors to his location through the system manager. Soo-hyuk admitted that it would speed up the process considerably. After all, these bracelets have many useful functions. Han was sorry he couldn't help him much in battle. Unfortunately, they weren't that adapted to combat tasks. But since they had already volunteered to help, it meant a lot. Right now, it was better to focus on saving people. Thanks to the help, the guards, the rescue of the survivors went efficiently. Yang Soo-hyuk introduced himself as a 6th-rank hunter and asked the woman and child if they were injured. The mother thanked him for saving her. Han Taemin sent a message that all of the 22 people who had fallen into the portal had been rescued, and now you can do nothing but fight. All that remains is to destroy the Cosmo Energy Center of this world. He spotted a huge Athel, who was supposedly the boss of this place. This flower had petals that were 3 meters long. The protagonist decided to end it. He struck the vines with his sword. But after that, Soo-hyuk realized that this monster was not only bigger, but also much stronger. The mere art of the sword doesn't work on him. Bosses, of course, are always briefly stronger, smaller monsters. Soo-hyuk didn't like this technique in his time, but it's something to try now. This technique is more powerful than the highest forms of martial arts. It is at the level of heavenly martial arts. However, it feeds off of willpower, a soul-ripping demonic sword. If he could replicate the technique of the soul-ripping demonic ball, he would be unrivaled in this world. He only has to resist the knot that this technique gives birth to. It's the only way to defeat this thing. Soo-hyuk's only enemy right now is Athel, a demonic sword that rips out the soul-cutting blow. That was a pretty powerful hit. The system reported that he had reached a new level. The users also resisted the compulsions of the evil force. His spiritual fortitude proved resistant to the attack of evil thoughts. He gained a passive ability immune to strong mental influence. By properly using such an ability, one could achieve a great deal. The users had perfectly mastered the technique of a rank 5 demonic soul-ripping sword. His consciousness had been purified. He had cleansed an entire world on his own, and received the title of Lesser World Destroyer. However, the world began to deteriorate quickly after defeating the boss. The guys were worried if Yang Soo-hyuk was okay. He told them to come out, and that he'd follow, but the man was already starting to worry. Han Taemin noticed that he'd really been gone too long. The protagonist stepped out of the portal. The defenders immediately ran up to him, glad to see him alive. They were worried that Soo-hyuk had been out for so long. The main character replied that he was fine. He handed the sword back to its owner and thanked him for being loaned the weapon. For a rarity, it's pretty good stuff. Han Taemin said that this sword was made by dwarves, and he spent all his savings on it. So he was glad that Soo-hyuk liked this sword. KR Guild President, 7th-ranked hunter Kim In-gyu, suggested to Yang Soo-hyuk to mop up this portal together. But suddenly another hunter told the president to wait. The portal closed right before their eyes. They couldn't believe that Yang Soo-hyuk had cleared the portal by himself. But that portal was a rank 5 portal. Now those around him recognized that this guy was truly a beast. Kim Yoo-min also couldn't believe that he had closed the portal alone. In addition, he came back alive and was now a hero. Great that he did it. But Soo-hyuk broke the law and now must be punished. Han Taemin asked what law the guy had broken. Kim Yoo-min replied that he had entered the portal alone, and he had already talked about it. Han Taemin didn't understand the logic behind it. Kim Yoo-min is just trying to annoy him. Besides, this guy didn't actually go in there alone. But he still stood his ground, saying that Soo-hyuk knew he was breaking the law and didn't care about it. And the guys just happened to walk in there. Han Taemin realized that it was useless to talk to this person. Kim Yu-min started claiming that he saw this guy wanting to go in alone. Kim Yu-min warned him, but he didn't even listen to him. If that's how everyone behaves, then why do they need laws at all? Don't they take the association seriously? The others didn't understand what was wrong with this idiot. He can't even say thank you properly. Is this really the behavior of an employee of the association? Can they even behave like that? Kim Yu-min will show that I'm with the offenders from Awakened. He grabbed Soo-hyuk by the collar, saying that this criminal had come to an end. He even suggested that Soo-hyuk would fight. Let him add another article to the list. He'll send that criminal to jail himself. Soo-hyuk will write tearful letters to his mom from there. But he didn't have time. He didn't even finish his sentence before he was struck by a hand with a silver bracelet. He let go of Soo-hyuk and fell down. He was punched by the angry KR Guild president Kim In-gyu. Even he mentioned that this idiot better thank Soo-hyuk for saving so many people and closing the portal. How can this guy even be called a criminal? Kim Yu-min really doesn't seem to understand why the awakened ones exist. His face twisted in pain and he wondered who he even was. He crouched down almost to the level of Kim Yu-min's face, talking about being the president of the KR Guild. Afterward, Oh Shin-woo arrived there and tried to calm the awakened people. He took off his glasses, indicating that he had heard everything. Oh Shin-woo introduced himself as the vice president of the Awakened Association. First, he apologized to the citizens because they were not able to react to the situation in time. But this will not happen again. And if there are casualties, they can go to any hospital from the ones the association works with. The association will cover their expenses. People began to stand up for the protagonist because if it wasn't for him, they would not be alive for a long time. The man really thought he would never see his wife and daughter again. This guy doesn't deserve to be punished. Oh Shin-woo smiled happily, saying that there was no need to worry about it. No one was even going to punish him. Afterward, the vice president of the Awakened Association suggested that Soo-hyuk check the bracelet for updates. Bitch then noticed that he had a lone player status, which allows the Awakened to enter portals alone. Is this really the answer to his request? Everyone knows that being a lone player gives an awakened person the right to enter the portal and act alone. Besides, Soo-hyuk heroically saved people, so he deserves to be rewarded. He asked for a round of applause from all of you here. Thanks to Oh Shin-woo, the incident was quickly resolved. Kim Yu-min has already been disbarred, awakened for 3 months for his inadequate behavior. And now he'll be sent for retraining for 2 months and another 6 months at the front. Oh Shin-woo praised Soo-hyuk for his excellent work. The protagonist rose in rank to 8th and received a 20 million won award. The association's budget isn't very big, so that's all they can do for Soo-hyuk. The guy replied that it was more than enough for him. He would also not want his name mentioned in the press. Oh Shin-woo doesn't know why the guy would do this, but of course he'll do it for him. After which he arrived home. In his hand were 2 mana stones that were worth 80 million each. He didn't even expect to be given 2 pieces. These mana stones were given to him by Han Tae-min. Soo-hyuk was too busy saving people and didn't even collect the loot of the monster steelies. It's quite an unexpected bonus for him. Together with the award from the association, he got 180 million won. After deducting taxes, he has 160 million won. Adding what he already has in his account, he has 200 million, and he earned that in just 1 day. He still needs to earn 300 million won, and then he can take out a mortgage. His family has been dreaming of a house for years, and now he needs to keep up the good work. He opened the stats window and saw that it now required too much reading there. Perhaps he should do something about it. The system then informed him that a simplified reading mode was available to him. Detailed information is available on command. Now, he was at the 18th level. His body had cleansed 90%, and his body and sword fusion ability had been unlocked. He noticed that because of the title Lesser Destroyer of Worlds, all stats increase by 5% when the user alone enters the portal. If this title is low level, he wondered how much better further titles would be. After he decided to check out his new abilities, he saw so many system pop-ups. He didn't understand why there was so much information. A new passive skill immunity against strong mental attacks has been obtained. Awakened gets strong resistance against psychic attacks. In the land of Hwang, the most difficult thing was considered to be the fight against illusion magic, the effect on the will and the manipulation of space. Although even then he had a great deal of resistance, so it wasn't a problem for him personally. On Earth, to reach such a state, one must at least reach a state of harmony first. And he was able to unlock it just like that. As a bonus to his new skill, If he achieved harmony and further strengthened his resistance to magic, he would not be afraid of any illusion magic. It seems that his hard training is paying off. Suddenly, Suwa walked in and asked her brother what he was doing here. She came in so suddenly that Soo Hyuk even jumped up. Suwa noticed that he was already talking to himself for too long. Soo Hyuk asked her to ignore it, but he wondered why she was asking for it. She just ignored his question and said she had cut up some fruit to eat. It was on the news that a portal opened near Sinshan subway station today. Suwa noticed what was happening there. It was just horrible things. People ran for cover in panic, after which hunters arrived on the scene. Soo Hyuk started pretending, talking about how it must have been a portal of great power, and as if he wasn't the one who cleaned it up. The guy asked Oh Shin-woo to prevent his name from being mentioned in the press, so he has nothing to worry about. However, he can't hide it forever. Whereupon she remembered her silver bracelet. He had to quickly hide his hand so the sister wouldn't see him, but he's gonna tell her sooner or later. So why can't he tell her now? But even if Soo Hyuk tells her, she'll be against him getting involved in such dangerous events. She immediately picked it up in her hand and asked what it was. She did have a feeling, but she just couldn't believe he was actually awakened. Suwa thought it was a joke. He had only recently been in a coma. Soo Hyuk replied that was the reason he started doing it. But sister thought it didn't make any sense. Since he had a silver bracelet, it meant that he was probably a rank 6 or even higher. He had only recently become awakened. The guy mentioned that he would be getting a gold one soon, but Soo Hyuk didn't believe it. Soo Hyuk told her that he was gifted. Did he really think she'd take his word for it? News reports said that a prominent new awakened played a crucial role in the closure of the portal near Sinshan subway station. The association has yet to make any official announcement about him. But the association's leadership says he could follow in the footsteps of world number 8 member Baek Moo-hak. Suwa began to vaguely guess that he was the one the news was talking about. I'm not sure, but Soo Hyuk replied that it was true. She immediately inquired about his rank. The answer was an interview that said it was the first in the history of not only Korea but also the world. An awakened person who received the 8th rank on the first day. Oh Shin-woo said it's not just about superpowers. He has a keen sense of justice and is also willing to brave the heart of danger. Suwa didn't expect at all that he really had an 8th rank. Soo Hyuk asked the vice president not to talk about it. The man thought only of how he could survive, as well as his daughter and wife. When the awakened man appeared, he almost wept with happiness. Since he was 12 years old, he no longer believed in the existence of heroes, but now he believed in it again. Heroes are among them, but in reality, Soo Hyuk is some kind of hero. That's what all awakened people should do. Since that day, everyone's been on edge. Maybe this world wasn't so bad after all. Someone rejoiced that Korea had begun to give birth to more awakened ones. If an unnamed hero developed their abilities, maybe they could help other countries with their problems. Korea had been laughed at for a long time now because they only had one top-ranked awakened Baek Moo-hak. Someone even wanted to create a fan club for the hero. News of an awakened man with phenomenal powers shook the world. He contacted Oh Shin-woo, who said they honored his request and kept the name secret. They also persuaded the survivors to keep quiet about Soo Hyuk, but the guy thought that was still a bit much. However, Soo Hyuk should enjoy himself. No matter how the circumstances turned out, he accomplished a great thing. Oh Shin-woo has even become a fan of the nameless hero himself. If he wasn't the weight of the president, he would have created a fan club for the main character a long time ago. And at that moment, Soo Hyuk started to guess that he was the one who was online writing the comments. He called himself a man of mystery, after which the man passed out. After telling the whole story to himself, he made a deal with Suwa. The first point of the agreement was to mislead his parents. If they find out about it, they might faint. And then you have to get the gold as soon as possible. It's the privilege of the awakened from the 9th rank. The elite awakened ones who protect the state. On the third point, he should stay out of the way. Even Suwa realizes that the guy can't be held back, but he had no choice but to agree. And that's what's holding him back. But if he keeps this up, it won't be long before he starts getting recognized. So he decided to buy a mask to hide at least his face. It's a silly idea, of course, but it's even better than being recognizable. Is this nameless hero really an 8th ranked hero? Among the World 8, the highest starting rank is rank 5. There's no way they're lying so blatantly, because they'd be exposed in no time, if the president is such a fool. But someone wasn't sure about the existence of this nameless hero who wasn't even known by name. There have been quite a few conspiracy theories already. But he was used to such things. In Hwang country, rumors and prejudice always followed him. He had already cleared 20 portals in the last month alone. Of course, it wasn't talked about in the press. However, people couldn't help but notice the masked man constantly going in and out of the portals. Of course, people were interested. And the nameless hero, now no longer a myth. He's real. All eyes were turned toward the mysterious nameless hero. Baekdu Sangild. It was already giving him a headache. Im Sayul asked if he could stop fiddling with his phone. But he just can't sit still and do nothing. And that's exactly what the leader of Korea's largest guild is. If he's so eager, he should make an appointment with him. His eyes immediately glazed over, and he asked Im Sayul if this was really possible. Sitting here and worrying is not going to get you anywhere. Maybe we should meet. He won't be able to ignore him when we do. Suddenly his leg was frozen. It was Im Sayul who thought that it didn't mean one should run away brokenly. They had already called and recorded messages for him. This guy hadn't answered once, which meant that Baekdu Sangild wasn't interested in him at all. Will they continue to watch the heroics float past them? Baekmu Hak is doing what he wants with his name. He's sick of it. Jonyoran and Imugi aren't just sitting around either. If they don't take up the case, then they will miss the nameless one. Im Sayul thought that the nameless one was Yang Soo-hyuk. Who else could it be but this guy that Im Sayul admires so much? Even if it's not Yang Soo-hyuk, it doesn't make a difference. Soo-hyuk's potential is comparable to that of a nameless hero. The guild leader asked what they were going to do now. During his training, he noticed that Yang Soo-hyuk was not dependent on the people around him and their opinion of him. It fit in with his character to ignore suggestions from the guild. Yang Soo-hyuk can sign a contract with whomever he wants. In this position, he's the boss. It would be amateurish for anyone to try to pressure him. Well, there's an elf named Shahar Kalaluriat. She was his instructor. Shahar denies it, but they definitely had a strong friendship. The guild leader's charisma would definitely not be enough for her after all. She wasn't even human, but she doesn't even need to be convinced. Shahar was not only Yang Soo-hyuk's teacher, but others as well. He showed a wiretap of Yang Soo-hyuk's calls. He doesn't know how much these people are his friends, but they call him regularly. He noticed the name Baek Yi-yeon, who they had already sent an offer to join the guild. Aside from her family, she's the only person Yang Soo-hyuk is close to. Maybe she's the one they should talk to. The guild had inquired. But what would they do next? Im Sayul told them that she would sign a contract with them next. That way their chances of success will increase. After that, they will go directly to the unnamed hero. After all, his deputy is a real scoundrel and schemer. Does he not like this plan? The guild leader really liked the plan. Therefore, it was worth it to start executing it immediately. Meanwhile, the protagonist continued to earn money by going through dungeons. These mantis monsters attack by distorting time and space. He used the Iron Fist technique, the last move. Instant destructive darkness. The system put the user with a victory over the mantis monster. He had risen 2 levels. The guy had also mastered the A-rank technique perfectly. Iron Fist technique. He needs to keep growing, because he's still a long way from perfect. He pulled out the Mantis Mana Stone. What a lucky guy today. Most of the mantis carcass is useless. Only the front legs are valuable. That's what he'll take. Artisans value this ingredient very highly. 1 pair can be sold for 10 million won. 2 pairs and a Mana Stone he could sell for about 50 million won. After that, he saw the center of the space energy and the portal. It radiates danger. If this center is not destroyed now, it can harm many people. After which he threw the weapon right into the center. After which, the space energy center began to throw out even more energy. Meanwhile, Soo-hyuk jumped on the ATV. You could almost say it was a race against time, because you had to make it to the portal in time to get out of this place. After which, he drove out of the portal. It was another successful sweep. The humans were shocked by the Nameless One's strength. Once again, he was able to clear the portal single-handedly. Soo-hyuk had only recently bought this ATV, and it really speeds up the work. You can take out as many large prey and mana stones as you want on it. To hunt alone, you need to pick up some good equipment. This ATV was created by dwarves, so it is incredibly strong and powerful. It has a spell to increase its carrying capacity. Compared to other magical modes of transportation, this one had a quite reasonable price. Therefore, it was a good investment. The quad bike cost as much as 800 million won, but it was definitely worth its money. He was on the phone with Oh Shin-woo, who heard that nameless hero did a good job today. Soo-hyuk reported that he had already arrived. He's got a good catch today. 2 pairs of mantis paws and mana stones. Oh Shin-woo will send out appraisers immediately. Soo-hyuk also asked if they had rank 6 or rank 7 portals here. The vice president said that the rights to them had been bought out by other guilds. Soo Hyuk wanted to ask about the lower-ranked portals. Oh Shinwoo suggested that he rest, because he was getting himself in trouble. The guy will think about it. Oh Shinwoo suggested that we go upstairs to have coffee together, but he decided to do it another time. The vice president will call the guy when his booty is accepted and appreciated. He felt bad that the portals had run out. He had to reach the 9th rank as soon as possible so he could tell his parents. After that, the guy changing his phone got a message from Baek Yi Young. The girl reported that she had just been offered to sign a contract with Baekdu San's guild. She thought about giving herself time and scrutinizing the guild before accepting offers. But maybe she should just accept and that's it. If he gets hired, she owes him dinner at the restaurant. And she hoped that Soo Hyuk would come too. The guy replied that this guild is great and also congratulated her. He will try his best to come to the celebration. Now it's time for lunch. It was still early for lunch, so there was no one in the restaurant. Now he can at least eat in peace. Employees talked about how the association just had an unnamed hero. He turned in the loot, which included mantis paws and a few mana stones. The vice president is even personally helping him with sales. This guy just became awakened, and he's already getting special treatment. But he didn't just sit around for nothing. It's deserved. He's not surprised that significant others want to help him. It's the only way they can oblige him to do something. If he gets poached by another country, he'll get a lot of press coverage for the rest of his life. They say he has the potential to outgrow Baek Mu-hak. If they lose such a strong awakened one, it would just be a disaster. After which the guys started talking about the world of Trainen. This closed area is regularly raided by hunters, but they can't cope with this portal. Soo Hyuk also heard that in this huge world, the center of space energy has not yet been found. For a loner like Soo Hyuk, even mopping up this portal would be unrealistic. It has been 3 months since this portal opened. Naturally, people were concerned about it. The man was surprised that they weren't even protesting yet. However, that wasn't the most interesting part. Rumor has it that the association works with the warriors of Elvenheim. Even an elven instructor came to visit recently. Her beauty is beyond words. It is said that the elves have recently invented some sort of magical device. It can locate the center of space energy and portal within a kilometer radius. After that, Soo Hyuk decided to pay for the food. And at the same moment he heard the words that the association would soon send out a cry to hire hunters. Soo Hyuk has cleared out all the available portals, so he doesn't have any work to do yet. Besides, he can't clean up the train on alone. He remembered the words of these guys who said that if Nameless took on this portal, he would be able to clear it. This really was a great opportunity for him. He needs to get on this case now. He calls Oh Shinwoo back, but he can't answer the phone. Looks like he has a lot of things to do too. He didn't know what he should do. After all, he needed to get there before the guild hunters. A man appeared in front of him who thought it was unsurprising that Soo Hyuk was turning up his nose. He had gotten so much fame and recognition at such a young age. Plus, he knew the identity of the nameless hero. It was Yang Soo Hyuk. Since Yang Soo Hyuk is a businessman, he decided to be brief. The man asked what the protagonist thought about why he had come here to see him. Soo Hyuk had no idea what the man wanted from him. It really pissed him off that Soo Hyuk was taciturn. Park Moo-gi introduced himself. He was the head of the Amugi guild that Soo Jung was a member of. Soo Hyuk noticed that he wasn't very verbose either. He even assumed that it was some kind of complex. He was very curious to know what Park Moo-gi wanted to prove to him. In this world, power decides everything. The man now realized what he was getting at, so he decided to demonstrate what real power was. Park Moo-gi's huge shadow beast wanted to pounce on the protagonist. Soo Hyuk was nimble, so he was able to dodge this attack. He learned that this man has an ability called a shadow shaman. He moves very fast. No wonder that's his main ability. Looks like he's going to have to sweat this battle. After which he landed some distance away. Park Moo-gi admitted that this guy is good at dodging. However, the slippery eel's tricks won't help him. Soo Hyuk started to get angry at being called an eel, so he decided to go on the attack. The shadow dragons opened their mouths wide to capture the protagonist, but they couldn't do that. Several clones of Yang Soo Hyuk appeared and rushed towards Park Moo-gi. Men really didn't expect that, so it was pretty impressive. Moo-gi seemed to be getting more and more interesting. With his attack, he was able to dispel several of Soo Hyuk's clones. Soo Hyuk thought it was a great opportunity, while that man was distracted by his doppelganger. But Park Moo-gi didn't even think. Give the husband and the chance to get closer to himself. He immediately noticed Soo Hyuk's movement. Fire was flying at him, even if it was magical. And fire will die out if you cut off the oxygen source. Soo Hyuk uses a sweeping leg kick. Win's doom. With his technique, the protagonist was able to create a safe space for himself. Park Moo-gi couldn't believe that the same rookie who had awakened only 2 months ago was standing in front of him. After which, Soo-hyuk decided to use this Shaolin technique. Divine Fist 100 steps. Park Moo-gi folded his arms in a cross to form a shield of shadows. But before he could do anything, he felt that Soo-hyuk had already touched him. And if Soo-hyuk hits here hard, Park Moo-gi will die. It's called an acupuncture point. He didn't understand what kind of ability this was in the first place. It definitely belonged to a number of physical martial arts. Soo-hyuk doesn't know why that man was looking for him today, but he really hopes he never sees him again. His relationship with Park Moo-gi's guild is already bad. He won't warn me again. If they meet again, Soo-hyuk will kill him. Park Moo-gi asks if Yang Soo-hyuk even knows that the World 8 are after him. Does he really think they are some noble heroes? Soo-hyuk is really strong, but does he really think he can handle them alone? If he joins the Emoji Guild, he will have everything he could ever want. He can't do it alone, but with the help of the guild, he can do it. Emoji will be waiting for him. It pissed him off that the arrogant jerk didn't even respond. Soo-hyuk stepped back a little further and started coughing up blood, and it's as if an unknown force is wrenching at my insides. Looks like he overdid it at the end of the fight. We'll have to accelerate the plan. He had just fought one of the 5 awakened 12th-ranked Koreans. If the fight continued until the end, Yang Soo-hyuk would not be able to withstand it, but he doesn't even feel bad about it. Soo-hyuk at least did a lot of damage to that pompous turkey. Besides, since he's being hunted by the World 8, he needs to prepare himself. Unlike Park Moo-gi, they won't be so easy to deal with. There are no half measures. You have to do whatever it takes to become capable of facing them all. Meanwhile, a handsome man with blonde hair arrived at the airport, accompanied by 2 men. He was greeted by an elderly man in a black suit. The person he met was Vladimir Andreev. Vladimir Andreev really hadn't seen Baek Chae-moon in a long time. The old man in the black suit told him that the throne sport was already standing, so he asked the gentleman to follow him. Others began to whisper that this guy was an actor. Some didn't know, but his face seemed familiar. Baek Chae-moon apologized for this crowd of gawkers. If Vladimir Andreev had warned them in advance before their arrival, they could have avoided such a fuss. The blond man replied that he didn't have time for that. He himself had not expected to have to act so quickly. Still, the old man thought it would have been better if he had been informed at least before the flight. Vladimir Andreev inquired as to who the nameless one was. Chae-moon revealed that he came out of a long coma a few months ago. This guy is registered at the hospital as a victim of a portal incident. But after barely waking up, he went into the hunters and began to develop in 7 leaps and bounds. That's the weird part. The blond man asked how old he was. The old man answered 27. This kid is pretty young. But he is the reason why Vladimir Andreev came here. This battle is going to be quite interesting. The blond man also inquired when Baek Moo-hak would show up. Chae-moon replied that he will not be ready until next spring. He would have to wait. Vladimir didn't like the fact that he was going to be away from the world for another year. That training-crazed boar hadn't even changed at all. Vladimir is called the Bloody Prince, or even the Lord of the Night. And he is a member of the World 8, so it's no wonder he's so arrogant. Vladimir noticed the driver's displeasure, so he asked if he didn't like the way Vladimir talked about his master. The driver did not want his mood to be noticed. Chae-moon turned to the gentleman, talking about how he was too young, but he didn't think he was being untruthful at all. That jackass sent everyone to the woods and went to practice. He's the reason Vladimir had to fly all the way out here. He asked the driver if he had anything against it. He replied that he did not. Vladimir touched the driver's shoulder, indicating that, at least for decency's sake, he should smile. He kept demanding that the driver smile. Baek Chae-moon tried to calm the gentleman down by saying that he would put this driver in his place later. The situation is getting out of control. Vladimir has known Baek Moo-hak since he was still walking under the table. He hasn't even been to school yet, and now some dog of a kid thought he could bicker with Vladimir. The driver asked not to insult his master. Bummer just asked the idiot if he really thought it was an insult. Because of this staggering pressure, the man couldn't even move. He was paralyzed. A little more and this man would be finished. He asked me not to do that. He was touched by Chae-moon, who inquired what had happened to the driver. It was as if he had come to his senses, not realizing what it was. He had just been very close to death, and even really thought he was going to die. Seeing the condition of the driver, the old man asked if the gentleman would mind if they slowed down a bit. Vladimir was fine with that. He also mentioned that this driver was as pale as a moth. He'd better calm down and smile. He's not dead, and that's a good thing. Something to be happy about. The driver had to pull a smile on his face. It was morning. and his inside still hadn't clenched after his fight with Park Moo-gi. Looks like he really overdid it. And if he started running through portals and fighting at the same pace again, the pain would wear him down. Guess he'll have to hold off for now. You have to get well first. His mom walked in on him and mentioned that her son had hardly had any time off lately, and today he didn't go anywhere. And she had the day off today too. My father walked in there and suggested we go out as a family. Suha wanted to join them too. Soo Hyuk was surprised that they all had the day off today. They could have at least given him advance notice, and at least he wouldn't have made plans for the day. His father didn't understand what plans his son could have if he didn't even have a job. Soo Hyuk replied that even the unemployed have things to do. He recalled his son coming home very late every day and saying he had been practicing. He began to think that his son was hiding something from them. Soo Hyuk replied that Dad would only find out. He was hit by a woman who said her son shouldn't have to tell them everything just because they are his parents. Parents should also let their child keep their secrets. She winked at her son, indicating that his mom understood him. Soo Hyuk only laughed awkwardly. The father replied that he was just worried about his dear wife, for she had just woken up. But she had wanted to go for a walk for a long time, so they should get ready now. The man replied that they wanted to take a walk in the park on the Han River. Maybe even go to a movie and then eat at a restaurant. Soo Hyuk liked the idea, since it had been a long time since they'd had a family get-together. Soo Hyuk liked the idea because then his mom wouldn't have to cook. The woman seemed to misunderstand something and wondered what he meant. Did he really mean to say that she wasn't a good cook? Soo Hyuk was just glad that she didn't have to bother with cooking. But if they go to the park, they need to take at least a small lunch with them. And since it was about lunch, they started asking their father to cook something for them. Even Soo Hyuk admitted that Dad's cooking was better. He decided to show what he could do. Dad suggested they watch TV while he cooked. Watching her father cook, Suha didn't even realize how he learned to cook so amazingly. They will have omurisu for breakfast. The girls admitted that it looked incredible, and there was also a nice scent. Afterward, the man pulled out a portion for Soo Hyuk. The protagonist asked if he had gotten a little. Since he has been practicing all night, he needs to eat well. Soo Hyuk thanked his dad for that. Mom asked her son not to worry about work. She was very excited to see him healthy, after which she wished everyone a bon appetit. Suha considered her brother lucky. Dad's food is delicious after all. Suha would eat it every day. Mom asked him not to say that, but she admitted that Dad cooked better than she did. The man replied that the two were overpraising him as usual. He didn't like that Soo Hyuk was quiet for some reason. But the truth of the matter was that Soo Hyuk hadn't felt this kind of heartwarming in a long time. He really wished it was every day. Even though they are not cramped in this house, and even comfortable, he still can't help but think about it. He even thought about telling them everything. Father wondered if Soo Hyuk had something to say to them. She barely touched her food. Soo Hyuk said that he really wanted to talk about something. Suha turned to him quietly, indicating that there was no need to talk about it now. She obviously knew what her brother wanted to tell her. Soo Hyuk even assumed that she could read his mind. Even if they said it now, they'd be afraid of losing their son again after he'd been in a coma for so many years. He has about 500 million won in his account. If he took out an additional loan, he could buy a 30-pyong apartment. But Park Moo-gi said that the World G8 will be after him. To counter them, you need influence. And that requires more money. He just needs to be patient a little longer. He just has to do it. The weather was great today. Soo Hyuk felt that the car was shaking like a cart. It's pretty old. I'll have to buy my parents a new car. Meanwhile, Suha noticed an advertisement for Awakened. Seems like the Awakened would go not so bad in these times. The profession has become less risky and more respected in society. Awakened people often become celebrities. If she had the Awakened ability, then they wouldn't have to be poor. Her mother understands that the Awakened live well, but she doesn't want her daughter to have bloody hands. There are more important things in life than money. Suha joked, giving an example of her daughter being a beauty. The mother didn't understand what was wrong with her daughter today, for she had been nurturing the mother's heart. They brought the children together. A little peace and love in the midst of all the turmoil. Soo Hyuk can't even remember the last time they got together like this. Perhaps that's why so many years have gone to waste, and the greater his desire to make them happy. Soo Hyuk will use all his talents to help them. The waiter took the order. The woman asked if it wasn't too expensive. Since Suha bought them movie tickets, Soo Hyuk decided to take her family out to dinner. And the woman kept saying that young people are completely unemployed at this time. They can afford to let so much money go to waste. But Mom shouldn't worry, because he'll definitely find a job soon. The man asked if he was sure it was necessary for his son. He had only recently come out of a coma, after all. Soo-hyuk replied that he was completely healthy, and rest was enough for him. She was very grateful that their son was trying so hard for them. But if things got hard for him, he should definitely tell his parents. The protagonist sighed. The father asked his son why he was so sad. Soo-hyuk felt sorry that this one day had passed so quickly. However, the man didn't understand what he was saying. Soo-hyuk replied that time was going too fast. Mom began to think he was becoming more like his father. His father's sentimentality is sometimes depressing. Then the man noticed Soo was missing. She didn't come back. Mom said she had gone to the restroom. Soo-hyuk will go check to see if she's outside. Meanwhile, she'd been slapped in the face. They were 3 girls who thought she didn't belong here at all. These neighborhoods, they're designed for the poor, Soo said, stepping away from her. It was as if this tone was saying that she was sick of living. She grabbed her by her clothes, preparing to punch her, not realizing it was the beggar woman who had taken it upon herself. However, her hand was stopped. It was an annoyed Yang Soo-hyuk. The protagonist found out that she used an illusion technique, so she is not who she claims to be. The woman was angry, not understanding who he was and why he was meddling where he wasn't asked. Soo-hyuk revealed that he was her brother. That really surprised everyone. Soo said about her being fine. She asked him not to mess with them and to get out of here, but she can't let his sister be beaten. But only then did he notice that she had already been hit. He glared menacingly at that girl, not realizing what kind of stupid carnival this was. She looked monstrous. Some force grabbed her arm. She immediately screamed for the pervert to let her go. But as soon as she came to her senses, she saw that there was no one near her. Soo laughed, saying that Hwang was hallucinating. Hwang was angry because it was a poor woman who dared to laugh at her. Later, Soo-hyuk asks her sister about this girl, and if she doesn't want it to get worse, she'd better back off. She became even more angry, not believing his words. They were wallpaper from a poor family after all. What could he possibly do to her? But poverty is not a crime, except they make it a crime. The rich go where they want and decide where the poor can and can't go. This is Korea. Apparently, because they grew up in a slum, they don't understand anything about life. Hwang asks if Yang Soo-hyuk knows why Soo can't even say a word to her when she's being beaten. She could easily tell her father to raise the rent on that decrepit apartment, which would leave them on the street. So he better get on his knees and beg for forgiveness. Soo-hyuk only sighed when he realized the reason for this behavior. Soo asked, leaving that girl alone. It was noticeable that that wench definitely had a lot of money and power. But to Soo-hyuk, she was just a spoiled fool who raises her voice at everyone in an attempt to seem important. She looks like she's wearing expensive clothes, but she still looks cheap. Perhaps it's the begging that's exactly in her head. She immediately wanted to hit him with the bag, for those words made her very angry. Soo-hyuk grabbed her bag. She immediately wanted her item back. He has no idea how expensive that bag is. If he even leaves a scratch on her bag, she'll kill him. Soo-hyuk didn't understand if it was an expensive item for her, so why was she waving it around? Hwang started to claim that it was worth more than his monthly salary. She looks like a pauper herself. But she calls everyone around her that. He tore the bag right in front of her. All the stuff fell out of the torn bag. She immediately fell to the floor, thinking it wasn't true. But Soo-hyuk started to claim that everything was real. She couldn't believe her that the bastard had ripped her bag open, after which Hwang ordered him to hit him. The girls immediately ran to do her bidding. He had no great difficulty in dodging this wench and her claws. He took his sister in his arms, after which he drew back from another blow. After which she guessed that the bastard was an awakened one. He picked up his phone to see what he had gotten to record from the event. It looks like he was able to film everything that happened. Suddenly, the protagonist noticed some kind of black ball flying out. He quickly turned around and hit that ball. Now it makes sense that she even had bodyguards by her side. But what a shame that her phone is in his hands. She claims Hwang is from a wealthy family. What will happen if this video gets on the internet? He gave her a final warning that they dare not come near Soo again. She'd better say thank you that it was just her bag. If he wanted to, they'd all be dead by now. That threat sent shivers throughout her body. Afterward, Soo revealed that she didn't want her brother to see her like that. She was in the same class with that girl for 3 years. As Soo-hyuk had already realized, they never got along. She has a strange desire to constantly assert herself on someone. Hwang has always been like that. But in her sophomore year, she became unbearable. Her father's business seems to be booming. Soo-hyuk inquired what happened next. Soo was getting on her nerves just by her presence. She has a brother who is an awakened one, and she is also an excellent and beautiful girl. Soo-hyuk didn't answer anything, and only began to frown. Soo remembered his words when he first woke up. talking about how beautiful she was. Soo-hyuk remarked that he was just overwhelmed with emotion then. She decided to let the moment pass, talking about how she didn't care about that girl. She's just pompous. Sua is probably hated because she's prettier. Well, there could be another reason. Soo-hyuk wondered what that reason was. There were exchange students in the school. She liked one boy, and around the 2nd grade he confessed his love to Sua. It turned out that Han-arim had confessed her love to him a week earlier and was rejected. Soo-hyuk didn't like that there was talk of a love triangle again. Of course she rejected that guy. She never had time for relationships. Her mom was sick, and her older brother was in a coma, so all she had to do was laugh at Han-arim. It was the only way she could get back at her. Soo-hyuk realized that it looked like he should have torn her hair out instead of just ripping her bag. The girl replied that it was fine. What he had done was quite funny as it was. She has a very cool older brother. Sua also advised to see it as a small step back before a long jump. It's not every day that something like this happens, and if Soo-hyuk gets even stronger, he can get revenge in other ways. After which she suggested we go back, because Mom and Dad are probably already worried. The boy agreed. Afterward, the family drove to the house. It was a busy day. Soo-hyuk thanked his dad for driving them around. The main character tells them to go, and he'll stop by the grocery store. He will buy his dad and mom some pain patches. Sua asked him to buy her watermelon ice cream. As he was walking down the alley, he noticed someone. It was Han-arim along with her bodyguards. Soo-hyuk didn't even think that she would appear before his eyes so soon. Han-arim demanded to give back the phone. If he gave her the phone, she would forget about the torn bag. She still didn't seem to understand anything. Her guards were already preparing to attack. The girl herself said she was running out of patience. If he continued to behave like this, her boys would have to re-educate him. Does he really think he's going to get hurt if he puts that video on the internet? He's the one who attacked them first. Soo-hyuk knows that awakened people aren't allowed to attack civilians. But the guy started claiming he doesn't remember any of this. Plus, he tore her bag. Soo-hyuk admitted that he used force, but it was on an object, not a person. But here's Han-arim hitting his sister. She realized the bastard didn't want to talk nicely. She ordered me to grab this guy and take the phone, even if he had to be beaten half to death. The bodyguards immediately pounced on him. These guys asked to get beat up. Any more and he'll go into self-defense. He kicked one of his attackers right in the leg. Acupuncture points are very helpful in immobilizing. After which he applied his technique. The other person saw that it was physical martial arts. But after all, Soo-hyuk had only recently become awakened. Kim Man-soo introduced himself. He thought Soo-hyuk was just an ordinary rookie. Turns out he's a tough nut to crack. He didn't even think he would have to use black marble. Soo-hyuk realized that he was the man who had thrown the black ball at him. But from the man's tone, one could tell that he was delighted. This boy really doesn't seem to know who he is. Kim Man-soo is this girl's bodyguard. Soo-hyuk wondered if that should tell him anything. And what kind of stupid nickname is that anyway? It was surprising that this guy hadn't really heard of him. He had once almost become the vice president of the Chunhae Guild, one of the best guilds in Korea. Soo-hyuk is just lucky to dodge his ball, causing him to start looking arrogant at everyone. Kim Man-soo warns that if Soo-hyuk doesn't back off, he'll get something worse than a regular street fight. After which he threw his marble ball. Soo-hyuk was able to step aside in time. After the marble ball landed, there was a huge footprint left there. Now he remembered who this man with the iron core was. Kim Man-soo, a sphere of black light. He was once a director in the Chunhae Guild, an awakened 10th rank. He lost the election for vice president of the guild and resigned. After leaving the hunter's activity, he remained at the same rank. But if he had continued his career, he could have risen to the greatest heights. It is said that his throwing power is even greater than Park Moo-gee's. Kim Man-soo was impressed. He thought that Soo-hyuk had accidentally reflected his core. But now he sees that he was wrong. It's that Yang Soo-hyuk, the nameless one. Therefore, the man decided to leave the feud, because he did not want to cross his path. These words surprised the protagonist. Han-arim thought her bodyguard had lost his mind. Who told him he could stop when he wanted to? He declined the girl's request. After all, the man had not the slightest desire to have a conflict with this person, even though they had met under not the best circumstances. But he was still glad. He had been looking for a meeting with Yang Soo-hyuk for a long time. Afterward, Kim Man-soo suggested that we talk at a more appropriate place. He will still meet with Soo-hyuk, and hopes they can talk peacefully then. But it was noticeable that Soo-hyuk was not burning with the desire to meet him again. Let him better not pretend that they could catch up as friends after this. Kim Man-soo advised, don't be in a hurry to reject the offer. He wanted to offer him something very tempting. But Soo-hyuk wasn't interested in that. Didn't this man even hear that he refused everyone? He really had heard a lot of things. Even that he'd gotten into a fight with a couple of Emoji Guild members. Kim Man-soo replied that he has his own informants. He thought he was going to punch some kid in the face, but it turned out to be a big fish. He called Soo-hyuk his friend and mentioned that they would meet again. Soo-hyuk didn't even realize since when he had become his friend. Han-RM didn't understand what had just happened and what she should do now. But she realized she had to get away from here. Soo-hyuk immediately appeared in front of her, asking about where she was going. I mean, he did say that if he wanted to kill her, it would have happened in a blink of an eye. She couldn't even say anything because of this fear. Her body was trembling, after which he struck her throat, causing her voice to disappear. Soo-hyuk revealed that he blocked her voice points so she won't be able to utter a sound. It was as if Han-RM was beginning to beg for mercy. Soo-hyuk really could cause her any kind of injury right now, or even break something, but he won't do it. After all, it is his sister, not him, who will do the punishing. The protagonist ordered her to wait here. Very soon, Han-RM realizes that everything she has believed in life will turn to ashes. She couldn't say anything, of course, so she only cried. Afterward, the man reported back that he was unable to get the video. Kan Giji, a member of the National Assembly, replied that he had better not come back here to talk about it. He would rather go to the sea to drown himself. The men apologized to Mr. Kan. Mr. Kan Gije thought he was useless and a jerk. He asked where Kim Man-soo had gone. Then he was told that the man had decided to leave the service. It made him very angry that this man thought he was better than them, as if he could do anything he wanted. When Han Gije became president, the first thing he would do would be to nail all these awakened ones. He wondered what that puppy was saying. As it turned out, only the young mistress was talking to him, so he couldn't hear. He waved disappointed that his subordinate was of no use. Then he said to call Arim. But the truth is, the mistress didn't want to go to him. Afterward, Kim Man-soo called back to him. Han Gije wondered why there was such a rush, even if he had decided to leave and leave the task undone. Kim Man-soo said that he had been sent to do a simple task, but it was beyond his competence. First we had to find out who that guy was. Hana Gije doesn't pay him enough to get involved in such dangerous conflicts. He didn't think it was dangerous to punch some newly awakened brat in the face. Mr. Han doesn't understand how dangerous newcomers can be at this time. Still, he didn't expect the great Kim Man-soo to whine and complain. It was better to let him tell what really happened, but he called back just to warn of the danger. If he really didn't care, he wouldn't have called. Afterward, Kim Man-soo said that that guy is nameless. Now the gentleman should understand, it's best not to cross someone so dangerous, and pretend nothing happened. He threw his phone, causing its screen to shatter. Does that bastard think he can threaten a member of the National Assembly? How dare this awakened man intimidate him? The next day, Oh Shin-woo called him back. He apologized for not calling earlier because he had things to do. So-hyuk said that he had some problems, but he was dealing with them. He heard that the kid had a fight with Park Moo-gi. Oh Shin-woo didn't expect him to behave so aggressively. He also apologized again for finding out about it in time. Oh Shin-woo asked if he was hurt. Soo-hyuk only sighed as he asked about how he would have answered his call then. That's good to hear since he has a request. Oh Shin-woo was worried that Soo-hyuk would be unable to respond to her. Afterward, the man asked if the protagonist had heard of the world of Trainin. Of course, Soo-hyuk had heard about it. Then he knows that the association intends to close this portal at all costs. The largest guilds are already processing their hunter passes and magic weapon permits. Officially, magic weapons will be ready in a month after testing, but this period will actually be only 2 weeks. Korea needs a hero now more than ever. Nameless Hero is a great title. But what does he think about the hero title? In the end, Yang Soo-hyuk agreed. But the truth is that Yang Soo-hyuk is not at all suited for the role of a hero. He never had a love for people or a sense of justice, but they called him a hero. That title simply doesn't suit him. But if he has to play that role for Korea to be peaceful and safe, then Soo-hyuk is willing to do it. For your family. There are 15 days left until the Trainin portal opens. Soo-hyuk needs to get much stronger while he has this time. A martial art consists of 3 elements: mind, ability, and body. The guy has also reached the pinnacle of martial arts, so ability and body are already under his control. The only thing left to master is the mind, namely, your inner energy. The techniques of the mind take the most time to master. To reach the rank of Bodhisattva, one must have a reserve of chi energy equal to at least 60 years. In the normal way, he could accumulate this amount of energy in just 5 years. But he can't wait that long. Only the great Shaolin elixir could help him. Suddenly, he's just thinking about the elixir. It's a way out of this situation. He's arrived at a building called Cosmo Sales. Here they trade ingredients and booty not only from the planet, but also from other dimensions. It is almost impossible to find great elixirs on Earth. However, where artifacts from other worlds are sold, the probability is already higher. Mana potions give an instant replenishment of internal energy. This means that one such potion would give him the equivalent of 30 years of chi energy. The first floor has the most expensive merchandise. That's where he bought his ATV. It was made by gnomes, so the ATV was very expensive. A man was selling fresh dragon hide on the third floor. Transformation stones of any kind could also be purchased there. The vendors were willing to sell Yang Su-hyuk their goods at a discount. They all asked for the goods to be looked at, but the protagonist refused. This place is full of street vendors. Where's he going to find potions now? He spotted a beast man that stood on 2 legs like a real human, but it had cat ears and a tail. He hardly ever met any other races here. It was as if no one ever noticed her here, so he decided to walk over and ask. She yawned, but suddenly noticed a man approaching. At that moment, Su-hyuk realized that she had decided to magically conceal her presence. She found the man rather interesting. He wondered how he had managed to catch her presence, and whether it was just an ordinary coincidence. Su-hyuk told me that he had his own abilities. It turns out she was really hiding here with illusion magic. She decided to bring this guy after her, and talking about how she had what he was looking for. But he didn't even say anything. How does this cat even know? She showed the mana potion he was just looking for. Su-hyuk was surprised that she actually knew what he was looking for here, and she didn't understand why he was so surprised. She has the highest psychic ability in her tribe. She is a shuffler, and it is even surprising that he noticed her first. Su-hyuk asked how much this mana potion cost. The merchant replied that it was 300 million won. He clearly didn't expect such a price for a mana potion. It's too expensive. As it turned out, it was an extra-class potion that she had made herself. Therefore, she could guarantee its effectiveness. Making such potions of hers is a very labor-intensive process, and they are few in number. And he was in luck today, for there was one last potion left. Of course, it's up to him to buy it or not. Su-hyuk asked if she could read people's minds. As it turns out, she hasn't tried. But the cat is quite good at picking up intentions and dreams. And for some reason, she feels that his position is much higher than meets the eye. She might even be able to see his past life. As far as Su-hyuk knows, only a monk of the Black Mountain can do that. However, he's a magician, and she's a shaman. He decided to trust her and would buy this potion for 300 million won. The man seemed nice to her. She even noticed his voice trembling. Su-hyuk blushed and told him that it wasn't about the purchase, and his further words might sound a little strange. The boy inquired if he could touch her fur at least once. She even thought that this guy was a pervert, but actually Su-hyuk didn't mean anything bad. It's just that her fur looks really soft. She only sighed and offered to at least introduce herself to each other for starters. This cat's name is Nay. Su-hyuk introduced himself as well. People have very strange names after all. But she'll remember his name. Even though she had agreed to his request, the cat was curious to know if he was up to some kind of harassment. Su-hyuk immediately answered that he wasn't. She offered to just shake hands. Su-hyuk extended his hand and asked if it was a sign of friendship. Nay said he wouldn't be friends with just anyone. He felt her soft paw. Su-hyuk started to explain that he really likes everything gentle and cute. The cat didn't even know whether to believe him or not. At home, he thought about how beastmen were incredible creatures. He would never in his life forget her looks and silky fur. After buying the apartment, he even thought about getting a cat. Young Su-hyuk was determined to buy a cat. Meanwhile, Sua didn't understand where he was or what he was even doing there. He took the very potion that cost the secret an incredible 300 million. Usually mana potions are used by mages and shamans of critical situations. It helps to instantly restore magical energy. Just one potion for that price, but nothing like it to help increase the potential of ki energy. He really hopes this potion works. Now he realized that this was the real elixir. It had nothing in common with the cheap stuff. Therefore, Su-hyuk must internalize every drop of this elixir. The system reported that the Heaven and Earth Unification martial art has progressed. The rank had been raised to 4th. It also congratulated the user, for his martial art could now evolve to higher levels. His body had been completely purified, and the amount of internal energy was doubled. The art of uniting heaven and earth worked perfectly in a purified body. The speed of energy recovery was also greatly increased. The process of bone tissue renewal was initiated. If he accumulates another equivalent of 3 more years of Shi energy, he will attain his goal, namely the rank of Bodhisattva. He looked at his specs, and the guy got really curious about the bone renewal process. Cleansing the body 100% has opened up new possibilities. All martial artists dream of the unimpeded movement of energy in their bodies. Renewal of bone tissues is considered a myth. In the land of Hwang, reaching such a level in itself was considered that one had become a demigod. He had not even been able to do so in his previous life. He decided to look at the conditions for completing bone tissue renewal. It appears that strength, endurance, and agility must exceed 200 points. At the very least, he needs 180th level for such characteristics. He only has to grow and grow to such greatness. But he will still practice. Step by step, he will reach this condition. 15 days later, the very day of departure into the portal of Trainin had arrived. In such a short time, with the heaven and earth unification technique, he had internalized the QI energy for another 2 years. And now he wants to test himself in the portal. Specially protected object, Portal Trainin. A military officer stopped the protagonist and asked to see his documents. The man inquired if he was a hunter. Yang Soo-hyuk showed his ID with a silver bracelet. Since the paperwork is in order, he can go through for license registration before logging into the portal. Soo-hyuk was approached by an aide to the vice president named Kim Yoon-soo. The aide was told to escort the hunter out. Here, he will be a guide for Soo-hyuk. Other hunters also gathered near the huge red portal. Now Soo-hyuk realized that the people were telling the truth. This portal is really an incredible size. Kim Yoon-soo said that there was another assistant waiting for the hunter inside. This was the first time Soo-hyuk had heard of another assistant. Yoon-soo whispered that the main character would get a new outfit. He remembered the words about the gear being made in Elvinheim. If so, it was possible that he would meet the Shahar. He would not know until after Togo had entered. Now Soo-hyuk is ready, and luck will be on his side. After which he drove through the portal. The guy noticed that the atmosphere here was completely different. Looks like the hunters have gone to other portals, because this place is empty. He pulled up to a saloon called the Pioneer. Soo-HK recognized that it was quite creative. I can see why there are so few people on the street. They're all here. He was approached by a waiter who informed him that there were no seats available on the first floor. There is a place on the second floor, but the prices are higher there. However, the second floor is also full. What a nuisance. He didn't think there would be so many customers. Soo-hyuk indicated that he needed to go to the third floor. The waiter was a bit perplexed, saying that you can only go there by reservation, and it has the highest prices. However, the third floor has the best seats, and there are separate areas that are equipped with soundproof magic. It is mainly used by VIP clients, but reservations are required, so the waiter will check the list now. Soo-hyuk said he was expected there. If he was expected there, he should have said so from the beginning. He decided to walk the guy to the floor and also inquired about his name. Yang Soo-hyuk introduced himself. He saw that name on the list and also said that the guy's companion had recently arrived. This companion's name is Kim Chi-un. I'm surprised there's a whole manager for the third floor. It was noticeable that this T floor was nothing like the previous one. It was very luxurious and quiet. He was then led to cubicle number 328. And if they need anything, they can push a button. Looks like this is the helper. Beneath the hood was a blonde woman with black eyes. Soo-hyuk thought it was Shahar. Serenil removed her hood, saying that she was honored to meet this person. It is the second apprentice of the Kalaluriat clan, nicknamed the First Finger. She had heard about the deeds of Hawar's Yang Soo-hyuk. He is brave, just, and will be a great hero in the future. Therefore, she was honored to have such an acquaintance with him. He was clearly in a stupor over so many compliments. Serenil apologized, for she had been too direct. She could be that way sometimes, and she apologized again if she caused awkwardness. Soo-hyuk replied that it didn't matter and offered to sit down. They sat down across from each other. Soo-hyuk wondered what kind of tea it was. Serenil told him that it was a tea made from golden moon leaves, a plant that the Elaine clan grows. This plant is almost impossible to find on Earth, so I decided to bring this as a rare treat. The gifts of the elven clan of Elaine are tea leaves, which is worth more than pure gold. Now that's when he really feels like he's become part of the upper class. Soo-hyuk set the cup down and suggested getting to the point. Serenil suggested that we drop the formalities. Soo-hyuk agreed. He was told that she had a magic tool that helped locate the center of cosmo energy. She displayed a glowing crystal. This weapon is cooled for use in portals from rank 7 and below. They call this lava crystal in the shadow of the world tree. People found this name too long, so they just call it shade. So above rank 7 portals it won't scan. But the team is still continuing to customize this crystal, so this problem can be solved soon. Soo-hyuk asked activating the weapon. The radius in which it detects the object is still quite large, but they have a lot of work to do. She began to read out something in her native language to activate the scan. Sand began to form around the crystal. After that, the terrain itself began to change. Soo-hyuk guessed that it was a map of the Trainon world. He notices that one mountain stands out in the landscape. But without knowledge of Trainon geography, he doesn't know where to find it. Afterwards, the protagonist noticed that Serenial's condition began to deteriorate. She became very pale and breathed heavily. The boy immediately approached her. The elven woman replied that she needed to rest a bit. The important thing is that she found the center. It's on top of a mountain 300,000 kilometers away in human terms. The mountain range of the Black Fang. Serenial asked if they would go there now. Soo-hyuk offered to do it tomorrow. The elfess immediately realized that he offered this option because of his concern for her. She didn't want the portal passage to be delayed because of her condition. But Soo-hyuk didn't want to go now because he was feeling tired himself. She only remained silent. The protagonist said goodbye, talking about them moving out tomorrow morning, but the girl stopped him. Serenial told me that this number was just right for the hunter. Her room was next door, so she'll go. And they'll see each other early tomorrow morning. Rays of sunlight peeked through the window. Soo-hyuk was busy practicing. He heard a knock at his door. The boy immediately opened the door and saw a black hooded Serenial standing there. He immediately asked how she was feeling. The elf replied that she really felt better, and also thanked him for his concern. Soo-hyuk asked if they should leave now. She removed her hood, confirming his words. He walked over to his ATV and didn't even think about the fact that it was pretty cramped for two people to ride together. He wondered if she would mind sitting behind him. She looked at him with a serious look, not understanding what the guy was worried about. He decided to skip the subject, talking about holding on tight because you could fall. He was a little embarrassed. After which they hit the road. In the meantime, the manager reported seeing with his own eyes as they drove away on the ATV. The man explained that he would get his payment when they were done with those two, but they promised to give the money up front. But the man can't take his word for it. Even though he saw the two men leave, that's just the manager's word. And if the man has to take out the elf woman as well, the manager will get another billion on top of that. As soon as the man wanted to oppose, saying that this was not the way they had agreed, a fist immediately struck near him. The man inquired, "Didn't he say he didn't usually keep his promises?" That's not what he meant. He was advised not to risk his own skin out of stubbornness. He gave that bastard the information that he'd just take off. He really wanted to see how he'd do with these two. They need to drive another 17 kilometers in a straight line, then turn right, and another 20 kilometers in a straight line, and then they will be there. Suddenly the acid rats pounced on them. Serenial called upon the spirits of the earth. Because of this, they were able to pass between the rats without getting into a fight. She then summoned the water spirit Undine. A spirit began to form from the water. After that, Undine started attacking that acid rat. Soo-hyuk realized that she was a spirit interrupter. Serenial has such a superpower. Suddenly, a giant rat appeared in front of them.